Okay.
And 1 second, let's test out the audio.
Test, test.
I'm
Test,
doing-
test. Test, test.
It seems like it's working.
Test,
Seems like
test.
it's working.
Test,
Seems
test.
like it's working.
Test,
Seems
test.
like it's working. Good.
All right, we had feedback there. Sorry about that. Is it working now?
Working.
Okay, perfect. And no music going? Last time we had music playing at the start.
I hear no music.
Okay, perfect. All right, welcome everybody to Red Dragon Inn. I am the DM for the channel, Steel Axe. My name is Sean Steele. I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So tonight we have a new crew of people, and you may recognize some of them as players. We have somebody who's on here for the first time for Red Dragon Inn, and then we have a couple returning people. So we'll go around the table and let everybody introduce yourselves and tell them what you do for the channel, who you are, and yeah.
My name is Andrew, or AJ as known to my friends. I am one of the players in HotA. I currently play Rin, the High Elf Wizard. And I'm here in Southern California, enjoying the slightly cooling weather and hoping for it to get even colder.
Hello, everybody. I'm William. I'm one of the devs for HotA. Mostly works for the mechanics and monsters most of the time, but also do maps. And I live in Central California. Much more about me.
Okay.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Dylan Sierra. I play Kurtz Glaskin. This is my first time in Red Dragon Inn. Kurtz Glaskin, the human psychopath fighter.
Very psycho.
Yeah, and I'm in charge of our newly started social media outlet. So I'm going to try and get those all up at least by the end of this week. And we'll have the links up either here or on the HotA website, hotarpg.com. Check us out. We'll have Twitter, Instagram, everything I can pretty much get us onto.
Okay.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Connor. I am the new fourth player for this channel. I'll be playing Urgra, the half-orc ranger. Really looking forward to jumping in and almost caught up on the series. Also, shout out, we just have our latest episode is now up on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, episodes 44 through 53 or so. Yeah, just check it out.
It's dramatic shit.
It does get dramatic. The first one is mostly just audio, but we pick it up after the episodes 44 and on.
I cannot wait until we stop having technical issues while we're streaming.
Did you
Eventually.
capture like, the audio of everything prior to stuff?
The audio is all there, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So the dancing owl was there.
It's just sort of frozen.
No, that part
Darn it!
I didn't start the recording on, and
Damn
then
it.
when I did, the server was lagging out, so it was just audio for a lot of it. But
Okay. Well, he'll make a reappearance.
yes, it'll have to come back.
It will.
All right, so just so everyone is aware, our campaign is back on track for hopefully kicking the Session 0 stuff off. We're gonna pick up where we left off. It's gonna be transitioning to, the fourth character is gonna be rotating out, and they're going to be resuming their the arc for getting the story to start. So before we can get that, though, we do have a couple things. We have a couple of video clips that we have to change over because it's a new character, and we're still waiting on the drawings to be done of the character. So we're going to be doing some Red Dragon Inn episodes on Tuesdays, which is normally when we play the game. We'll be doing Red Dragon Inn until the Session 0s are ready to go, and then we will play through that arc until it's done, and then but hopefully by then the game and everything will be ready to launch, and we'll actually start the season over on. So our channel is also still looking at starting up the PvP tournament. We still, I think, need 3 more players. So if anyone is interested, you can zip over to our website, HotARPG.com, and on the webpage, it'll tell you instructions of how to apply through Roll20. And we're also looking for guest stars to appear on this talk show here. And it's same instructions. You just need a webcam and know a little bit about D&D, and you can definitely apply to get on here. All right, so tonight's topic is let's talk races. And this is going to be an ongoing series because there is so many races in D&D, and they are constantly expanding it and coming out with more. So it's a very long topic that can go down a rabbit trail. So tonight we're going to be going over humans, dwarfs, elves, and halflings, and we will try not to go too far down each of those because those can be expanded as well. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So before we go into humans, though, how does everybody feel about races and the importance of it in the game and why it's here, and just some generic defining terms for people who are new to D&D? What are races?
Do you want the politically correct answer or the truthful answer?
Races, I think.
The correct answer.
Races get too much attention, I think. Your character's your character, regardless of what race they are. Everyone has their own preferred race, just like everyone has their own preferred class. Each one comes with benefits and detriments and things like that. If your DM is a good DM, there's going to be pros and cons, not only for your like play style or combat or interactions. There's going to be stuff in the world going on for races too. So like tieflings, half orcs, drow are usually like commonly stereotypically discriminated against in a lot of campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing one of those, it's really interesting, at least I think, that your DM acknowledges that if that's how it is in their world and plays to that.
Okay.
But aside from that, like, do what you want. You want to have a fucking half orc wizard? Go nuts.
Yes.
Okay.
Besides the stat bonuses and the special abilities they all get, I feel like a race adds a very important part to your character in the sense of how it's placed in the world. There's obviously points where there's going to be a bit of racism inside the game if it's, I guess, realistic to the point of how it would work in a fantasy world and all that stuff. So seeing how those actually end up in interactions work, it's a very interesting motive for some characters of, say, they're a half orc or even a half elf, and they're in the divide of these two worlds that are so different from each other, but they have to not only work with the people that are friends, but also their enemies to try, not even enemies, just people that don't believe in what their creation is. Yeah. It's very interesting how a race could end up.
Yeah, to me, I've always imagined that the races, I like the thing that they can deliver to the world's story in a way that gives you almost like a little bit of a fallback to something. What you know how certain cultures will exist. You can understand how certain towns might be set up, or you might have the occasional stereotype that most people always go to when it comes to races in our world. I mean, we have our own versions of generalizing. They obviously have their own versions of that too, but sometimes it can be one of those things where a lot of the times you really look forward to those. That's why in some of the classes you say, oh, you can't be the half-orc barbarian. I mean, that guy's he's gonna plow in there hard. And it's like you have these little things that make them fit into their nooks and their crannies. But I think it's also great to show a lot of breaking the mold, because I think it's a lot more fun when you can show someone how you can go way off into something crazy and funny. Because I think that's the best part. It's like you're given a mold. It's a lot of fun to break the mold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Half orc wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as races, I mean, that's, I think, one of the most exciting parts of like a fantasy game. Like if you imagine just playing Dungeons and Dragons where you can only play a human, there's
Boring.
that cuts out quite a bit of the fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be able to like be a gnome, you want to be a half orc, you want to be an elf. Like we've read stories, we've heard like all this social media, not social media, but media about all these things and all the history and all these connections our brain normally makes when we hear like elves. And so it really adds something, I think, to add the variety of your fantasy world, which is what D&D is based off of in the traditional sense.
Do you guys know the #1 combination for race class across the board for new and used, or new and experienced players?
Human fighter.
Human fighter. And that is the only human one that's even on the blip. Other than that, humans are rarely ever picked.
Really?
Yep.
I guess I have a question actually
if
to
human
continue.
fighter is only on the list at all, it's #1, is for brand new players. This is my first character I've ever made. It's super relatable, because you are human. You're, fighter is something like you can't be a wizard, but you could be a fighter. You could picture that. So
You can play
it's the
yourself.
#1. It's a #1.
you. First class can human
combination. No, it's okay to have them.
Yeah.
It is a good combination.
So generic.
but
Jeez,
it's
and
yeah,
that variant.
it's the easiest for brand new players. You're not brand new, Dylan. You could
I am
handle
not.
anything. I'm just saying that's just the trope.
Yeah,
With-
relatable and mechanically, it's very accessible.
Right. And then beyond that, humans are almost never picked statistically because it's a role-playing game and people want to get to play something fantasy, and being a human is boring.
I guess a show of hands. How many of you was your first character a human fighter?
No.
Yay! We have
No, we're
diverse players.
I will
We're the odd
say,
ones out.
I've never made a character that is not human.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah,
That's
Alright.
interesting.
Never
my
made
first character was human paladin.
You're
and
so
I've had
racist.
Human rogue.
Ah.
Yeah, human rogue.
Okay, so all your characters are human. All right.
Yeah,
So I have a question. Is it human because of the variant, or is it human just for the role play point?
I do human because of the freedom of it. I feel like a lot of the classes have this sort of stereotypical, like, if you're a half orc, you have to be this brutish whatever. If you're an elf, you have to be this high-minded, wise person. If you're a tiefling, you have to be this conflicted whatever. If you're a human, you'd be like, hey, yeah, this guy's the most noble, charismatic person to meet, or he's like a bastard and he'll stab you in the back as soon as smile at you. I
That
think there's
sounds
just so
familiar.
much room for adaptation from them. And yeah, their stats are great as well. I don't
Stats
use the
are.
variant too much. I used it for Kurtz.
Variants, I feel like, is only good for fighter and wizard when it comes to, I guess, using it, because that's where you can get the most out of it, I feel. But
What?
I could be argued.
I will admit, I do not like the human until they offer the variant feature, because otherwise I'm just kind of like, It's just,
It's
just-
true.
It's just the human. And plus, you're blind during the night. Who wants that?
Not
well,
having
Dragonborn
dark
love
vision.
it, and
Halflings, but yeah.
Dragon has their breath attack, which is very helpful, especially in unarmed.
I can throw a
Things.
Molotov cocktail. Same
I
thing.
can
you
get
have
a
this
Molotov
stuff.
You don't
cocktail
spit
out
out
everyone
your
else.
lungs.
You don't spit out fire, though. It's super intimidating. Think about it. Just some guy walks
What
up
if
to you.
what if I grew up
Fire.
in a circus and just blew fire at you? You don't know.
You
The
don't
one
have stuff to do it.
the one thing I think people don't really give much thought about when it comes to the races, that I think is a lot of fun, is the diversity of age. That you have
Yes.
so many different
Mhm.
things that can range into what their average lifespan can be. Like a human might, blip off at 70, but that's just like a baby to an elf and a gnome. Just like, we're gone. It's so interesting to imagine you have like an elderly wizard in the group, but then it's like, oh look, there's the young 120-year-old elf who's
Yeah.
I loved Rosie
Comparatively.
Beestinger from Acquisitions Incorporated.
Oh, yeah.
Met Your Grandma's Grandma. I loved that fact that they just old as fuck. Like that's
Yeah.
so great because you never see that in campaigns.
And I'm
People
still
always
young.
in their prime.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I guess it's different mattering on what races there are. I know gnomes, elves, and
Furbolgs also get up there.
furbolgs. Furbolgs are just fey. They're pretty
fairly
much fey.
new. I actually don't know shit about furbolgs, so
They're OP as
They're-
hell.
They
Yeah.
are pretty earthy.
They're
cool.
pretty powerful. They're basically giants, and they're giant fey, pretty much. That's
Yeah.
the best way you can describe
Are they the race that
giant
has like the most like
I think
spell
so.
opportunities? 'Cause
Yeah.
I know Tiefling have
And it's
some-
short rest stuff too. They're all
they
their
get
Yeah.
a
spells is short
lot
rest.
of they get a lot of
They-
buffs. Yeah,
They get natural magic abilities. They get a size larger carry capacity, which is amazing if you're like a magic caster and you have a dump stat of strength, so you still aren't
But they
buried
get,
in the equipment you hold.
they get two, 3 spells, right? Invisibility.
Yeah, they get invisibility.
Yeah,
Is it
so-
fairy fire?
Invisibility, detect magic,
Well,
and
we're gonna
disguise
have
self.
we're gonna have a furball.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Furbolg,
that's going over
man.
classes.
it's okay to
It's
Yeah.
ranting.
Humans.
Humans.
yeah. Let's
we're
just
so in love with humans that we
The
didn't-
only human in the
Oh.
party, right?
The only human in the party,
Come on.
but
I'm half there.
well, let's
I
just
guess it really.
let's
yeah.
just dive straight into humans and start talking about
Yeah.
them.
I guess I'll start off.
Yeah, go for it.
When it comes to humans, there's a lot of ways of playing it in campaigns. How I mostly go about it is they're the great conquerors of the world. Usually, even though they're short-lived in most worlds, they're fairly weak when it comes to other races. They still have the ability of their, I guess, creativity and their fertility when it comes to spreading across nations and great speeds when it comes to certain organizations or factions.
So they're rabbits
sorts.
to you, basically.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, they are
Or a
rabbits.
virus.
I read
That
some
too,
sort
but
of fantasy.
that's
The
that's
virus
all
one, the-
humanoids. That's all
I think-
humanoids.
I think the bugs and the insects, that's like the goblins and the kobolds.
Yeah.
That's the lesser things, but they breed like,
the things that
They
have
do-
to procreate to just exist, essentially.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
They
they'd
need
be killed
numbers. Like, yeah, kobolds are rabbits. They're rabbits with scales,
out. I
pretty
think
much. But yeah,
I read this one thing, this fantasy. I don't remember what it was at the time. It's like humans are the great conquerors of the world. I think it might have been a Warhammer, because their lifespans are so short that they feel the need or like the compulsion to achieve as much as they possibly can
Mm-hmm.
within their short lifespans. Especially since D&D usually takes place in like the Middle Ages, you got to think about what the average lifespan was. Like 40 years, maybe if you're lucky. So you got to think you have 40 years of life, whereas elves, dwarves, and the other sort of
Hundreds.
major races, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly one of humanity's strengths, and why I think humans are one of the best classes to play, because a human is going to want to do that adventure. They're going to want to
Yeah.
gain glory. They're going to want to like achieve as much as they possibly can. Whereas an elf be like, oh, well, there's that, castle full of evil villains. Let's just wait 100 years. They'll die.
they'll die,
Yeah.
or someone else will take it over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read a little blurb about the human race. It says variety in all things. This is from the Player Handbook. Humans are the most adaptable and ambitious people among the common races. They have widely varying tastes, morals, and customs in many different lands where they have settled. When they settle, though, they stay. They build cities to last for the ages and great kingdoms that can persist for long centuries. An individual human might have a relatively short lifespan, but a human nation or culture preserves traditions with origins far beyond the reach of any single human's memory. They live fully in the present, making them well suited to the adventuring life, but also plan for the future, striving to leave a lasting legacy. Individuality, as a group, humans individually and as a group, humans are adaptable, opportunists, and stay alert to changing political and social dynamics. So, with that portion being the foundation, what do you guys think about that?
To me, when I think of a human in that regard as well, one of the things I think that makes them shine is it's the beauty of the weakest link to a degree. They are so frail compared to a lot of the other races having their own tenacities to survive, be it through age, magic, or any other means. But that does give them that form where it's like they have so much to obtain. It gives them such a great drive to get better. But the other thing that I like about it is that they are actually the glue that keeps all the civilizations to work. Because if you think about it, whenever you go with the traditional D&D, common is considered the human language. It's basically the general, everyone can talk and speak common. We all know common enough to work by. Every race knows that, which means that obviously means the humans have their hands in everything. Yep. And it makes a lot of sense because they're weak. They got to get a lot of alliances. You got to make friends with everyone you can. Try to be on the good side. Hopefully get enough, friends in bulk around you so that you can, cultivate and culturize and get yourself maybe a bit more, pull from some elven lore, pull some from dwarven lore, pull a little bit like their culture, their technology, get yourself up in there. But it gives them that great sense of allowing all the other races to have a reason to interact with each other. Because a lot of the times you hear about dwarves hating elves, having little stubborn streaks and pride, maybe having problems with other races in general, but they have that great sense of being able to make it so that your D&D world can cohabitate with each other. It gives them, half elves, half orcs. Some races are able to do it, half demon, half human, tiefling. It's like they are literally the little the pieces that can pull so many branches together to the trunk.
As a side note, I've never seen a half gnome.
Wasn't that a halfling?
The short humans would be a halfling.
Really? Like, you really think that's what creates? That's for later on in the stream.
Do we want to? What is the origin of the halfling?
What is
with a man?
That's for later on in the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Humans.
The problem are gnomes are very strange. Gnomes are very strange. They live surprisingly long as well with their short stature. But yeah.
Well,
small dogs live longer than big dogs.
Yeah, right. There you go. So, Connor, do you like man? Is man good to you?
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question.
That seems like multiple loaded questions.
I have never played Have I played a human before? I don't think I ever have. Yeah, because a variant human always makes me feel like I'm cheating, and then just the regular human just seems like, why? I know we're building them up and everything, but I'm like, for me, my personal opinion is if I'm playing a fantasy RPG, I want to be something different. Right. I want something completely out of left field. I don't want to be me.
So let's define terms in case somebody watching is unaware of the differences between, because we said they're human and a human variant. So AJ, what is the difference between the two?
Well, a normal classic human from D&D is just basically the standard +1 to all of your stat blocks. They just basically are averaged out at being okay with most things. Okay. The variant, however, allows you to gain 2 skills of your choice and 1 feat in substitute for knocking all back on. And so that gives you the great little kind of like customization to give you those tiny little things that are really beneficial that you only would have normally got during an ability score, and you'd have to swap out an ability score for it. You can get things such as being a healer, being an actor, being very good at sniping with your spells, being a magic initiate, a ritual caster, someone who carries a book around and knows how to do all those. It gives
the armor master.
Yeah, being a master of a trait that some take years or levels to get up to.
Yeah, exactly. So a level 1 human variant is usually slightly better than a lot of other race class combinations, unless you are min-maxing.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's better. It's more efficient at what it does, but that's the point of variant. You're good at what you do.
Right.
Yeah, you're very well suited for one task or one thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it all also plays into the whole human nature sort of concept as well. You're playing a human, it's a lot of people think it's very easy to play human. But then again, you're also playing a game where a dragon could fly over the horizon and eat your face off. You got to think about that as someone who has maybe 40, 50 years to live, has been living in a medieval lifestyle, knows they're not the strongest thing, have essentially these large fortress cities or citadels. That's the only way they can survive in this world. There's monsters, there's magic, there's all this crazy shit going on. You're just like, fuck. I was born 10 years ago and half my family was sold into slavery, and then these giant monsters called orcs came down from the hills and raided my village. I think it gives humans, which I don't think a lot of people think about, this, I don't want to say brutality, but it gives, a lot of people don't give them the willpower that they deserve to live just in the world of D&D. Because you got to think, like, I mean, take any standard American from today and throw them into D&D as like a real life person. How long do you think they'd survive?
If they could get magic.
What generation?
A day.
Yeah,
a
like
day.
a day, a week, a month, like tops. Like,
Is this an average Joe, or is this someone like that's at least has somewhat experience in life?
Just the average motherfucker. Like,
they would die within hours.
Yeah, like,
dude, where are they being dropped off? Is it the wilderness or a town?
This isn't a fantasy, like one of those fantasy mangas where they have all these abilities. No, they're gonna die.
It's not some isekai shit.
Yeah, it also depends where they're being dropped off. I mean,
even that though, disease, famine.
That's questionable.
Like,
I have a
very questionable.
That's another thing that's not in perspective too much, but humans back then didn't live for multiple reasons, and I don't think I would ever want to go back in time because people were disgusting back then, and they didn't even know it.
But
there were different standards.
Yeah,
different standards, but like from today's standards, in most places, it'd be kind of, I wouldn't say unacceptable, but
third world.
The closest, Afghanistan is pretty much the main.
Whoa.
But they have cars.
Not quite. This is D&D. Remember, their version of technology and science is magic, and a lot of the time, if you have clerics, most clerics can do lesser restoration. Diseases are not much of a problem. If they're magical or parasitic, perhaps they might be a little bit more troublesome. But there's a lot more cleanliness. You have magic that's able to clean things for you. Unseen servants are all about. You have free labor at that point, so you can send them to do any of the demeaning tasks that you would not want to do: cleaning sewers, getting rid of garbage, sweeping the floors, washing, whatever you need. That's a
valid point, but you also have to take into account, like, it's like the kind of situation we're facing in modern times. We're like, hey, we have robots doing menial jobs and stuff like that, which is leading to poverty, which is leading to homelessness, which is leading to death and disease and things like that. So also, I don't think magic is as common as
we portray it.
We portray it in a lot of.
It entirely depends on the universe that's being.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say in basic 5th edition, magic is there, but it's not a mundane thing in people's lives. Like the common priest, like travels from the city ever so often in a year to visit the small town. But I wouldn't say you would have, if you had a wizard in your court at the town that you live in, that would be amazing. But I would think in basic 5th edition or just basic fantasy, magic wouldn't be as prevalent as it would be to make life so much easier, unless it's a high magic world.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, like, when you have your whole character creation, the whole thing is that you're creating a hero, a person with abilities that are far beyond the average Joe. And so that also sort of elevates magic in its own way.
Well, you got to think, though, of course, it also changes and depends on the race. Because humans might not necessarily be magically inclined, but an elf and a gnome, they already have it kind of flowing through their blood. Even Dragonborn, they can breathe an elemental breath weapon. So I think it all depends on the races, too. But in most cases, each race, besides the humans, does seem to have some kind of, a little bit of, excess energy, magic or otherwise.
And dark vision.
Yeah,
we get fucked on that.
What the hell?
What can we have
dark vision? Dark vision, okay. Dark vision is not used properly in most campaigns, though.
It's true.
People ignore the gray sight whenever they have dark vision, so it shouldn't be as accurate as people make it out to be.
Right.
But yeah.
No, I don't know. Like, I think humans don't get enough credit. Personally, I love humans. I wouldn't say they're one of my favorite classes or races, rather. I don't think they're given enough credit for their sort of place in the D&D universe.
Like I said, I think their biggest and strongest role is they're the glue.
They're the glue?
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't say they're the glue. I feel like they're the force when it comes to most fantasy. They're the ones that push it because elves are lazy, dwarves are protective, the other races usually live longer, so humans force them to take action. I wouldn't say they're the glue that holds everything together. They're just the aggravator.
I wouldn't, not necessarily the glue that holds everything. More like gravity. They pull things to them. They cause.
They cause change.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the
They're
race.
gonna do shit whether or not the other races are with them or not. So like, well, we're gonna die anyway. Eventually, like, might as well conquer this nation. It's like the Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's really. I mean, if we're talking about humans, elves, dwarves, and halflings, like.
If you go Lord of the Rings, technically the elves just left it. There's no real competition at that point.
Elves are like nothing in Lord of the Rings, though. Like they're there, but they don't care about anything. It seems like
They're all fucking dead, man.
They're dwindling.
They're not dead. They're on the other side of the ocean.
No, they're all dead.
they're on the other side, which is true. But I feel like in most fantasy settings, elves are lazy, and that's all it is for them. They're lazy because they think they'll live forever, so they don't care for
We'll be talking
things.
about that, won't we, in the next?
We will.
That's coming.
Yeah, it is.
I think a part of that. I mean, if we want to transition to elves,
No, not yet.
no,
Not
no,
yet.
okay.
That done with humans already? Yeah,
No.
okay.
Humans. It's like, I feel like humans are probably more of the ones responsible for like technological advances as well.
Yes.
Medicine, warfare, armor, even. Because if you think, like, as I'm not sure who said it, like the other races are more magically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
So like humans are like, how can we stand against this
Compete.
kind of thing? Let's build this catapult. Let's build this thing that shoots giant boulders at people because we can't, summon a boulder out of the sky to fall on them. Oh, we can't do mage armor. We can have this ethereal sort of protection around us. Well, there's this thing called adamantium. Let's forge that into armor. Now nothing can hurt us.
I think
Like-
we're getting into the boundaries of another race, but yeah.
I don't.
I would say
No,
they
I'm
do
thinking
have-
dwarf
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
Yeah, but they do have innovation. I mean, I will say that they are problem solvers because they are given a lot of problems. I mean, being the weakest and the smallest in terms of like strength, the world is a big problem, and they're trying to solve it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the world of D&D, I believe humans built the crossbow because they're like, we can't fire this bow with enough force to punch through this armor or this dragon or this troll.
I think
What if we had this mechanism that shot essentially, a tiny triangle of death and was able to pierce through that? I feel like it's just them adapting to the world, and then the other race is like, oh, well, holy shit, we could do that with magic, but
I think that's an argued point when it comes to certain things like that, mattering on how you see the races. But I do see your point, but I feel like humans also have another point of more or less they want to be remembered as well. So they're going to do everything they can to be remembered. So
Connor,
Mm-hmm.
I see you're reading.
I am reading.
What are you reading?
I'm actually just reading over the player's handbooks as far as the things you actually get. We were a little bit off. Like for
I
instance,
think
I
it's
was
one
just-
skill, one language.
it is one skill.
I
Yeah.
was just looking at that actually.
I know. I wanted to correct myself. I'm like, I'll leave it be. Yeah.
So,
One skill,
yeah.
one language, and one feat.
Yes. No, there's no language for variant humans.
No, there
They-
is.
they-
that's regular human.
humans just get the language regardless.
They get it all the time.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
societal.
It's this thing called everyone's best friend, I believe. So they can, because humans
They
interact with so many different races, they can just pick a language.
Makes sense.
Mentioned before.
Mm.
Don't make fun of my hand gestures, AJ.
No, I was agreeing with you. I'm like, yeah.
When did Dylan turn into a squid? Sheesh.
This guy got this tank top on, bud. It's
Sun's
40
out,
degrees
guns
out.
out.
It's 40 degrees out, man. It's sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I am surprised. I thought it'd be much colder for you to even contemplate wearing that.
Oh no, it's heaven. Heaven.
So
in
it
Montana.
says human names and ethnicities having so much more variety than other cultures. Humans as a whole have no typical names. Some human parents give their children names from other languages, such as Dwarfish or Elvish. Most parents give names that are linked to region's culture and naming traditions of the ancestors.
That is something that you do have an advantage on as far as humans when you're playing in a fantasy game, in that there's so much for you to draw on. Just like, I think we've talked about this, but the different cultures that exist in the real world, you
Yeah.
can just pull from that and say, hey, I am from a Japanese culture, and I am basically a samurai, and I'm building that into my character, and that totally makes sense. Versus like, I don't know, you're an Inuit from like Antarctica. That's also totally okay. No one even blinks an eye at it.
Yeah. That kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, there's so much variety as a human. You can be anything or anyone. It's not like constricted as much as the other races, because if we view humans as we view humans today, like there's humans everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The Arctic, the deserts, the jungle, like you can just be whoever you want.
Okay.
The Conquerors.
The conquerors or the conquered.
Conquered
Temporarily.
sometimes.
Yeah, like you could talk about the Spanish and the Mayans, like put that into D&D terms, an empire and some sort of native, undiscovered people, and then the empire comes in and tries to assimilate them and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, humans don't like to stay still. It's like, I sort of view it as like, we mentioned that they have ambition and they have urgency due to their short lifespan. And so, like, say, like, a lot of things that happened in the Middle Ages was that you have a couple of kids, but only the first kid gets to inherit. And so what the hell are the rest of the other kids going to do? They're going to go out and try and find something of their own.
Or kill that other kid. Who knows?
Kill everyone.
Well, there's a
Kill
backup.
everyone.
There's supposed to be backups.
There's supposed to be backups, but that's what the backups do. They kill the older children, so they're not the backups. But,
Or
yeah.
they marry into other land, or they go exploring.
If
and
they're women,
then
they
they're
marry.
no longer a peasant at that point. Now we're going into nobility.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think no one cares about, little serf on the corner over there having 2 daughters and wanting to marry them off to the foreign.
Who cares?
So because we're talking about races, so I would think the main thing for, if anyone's new to D&D, when looking at what changes based on your character with the race you pick, because you can have an idea of who you are, but then your race will affect certain things, your class will affect certain things, but there's some things that it won't. So with races, you get the ability score increase. So that's something to think about for mechanically for combat and for skills. Your age. Alignment. So a lot of races have tendencies towards certain alignments. So like some you can't be some way, or some are more inclined to be another ways. Size is a big thing. So because humans is what everything's based off of, medium, that's the standard size, but there are benefits and drawbacks of being smaller or bigger than what we are. Speed,
Mostly mechanical.
yeah,
Speed is mostly average for most races. It's average.
But then like Aarakocra can fly. Some races can swim quicker. Languages, so different races come with different languages, and then of course then there's sub races that follow under those, which can give variance to that. But those are the majority of the differences, and a lot of it is not that big of a difference. So I would say that you don't use race as your deciding factor for your character. I would kind of think about who you want to be before you pick a race, and then match a race to what it'll fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not be like, I want to be a turtle. Well, then what would a turtle be? No, like figure out, because you're role-playing a character, and a race is just a small sliver of everything that this character is. Connor looks like he disagrees.
A race is a huge part of who you are.
It
as
is.
a character.
I don't
And
know.
it's- The race is something I would think you would definitely have to work with the DM on when choosing your race.
It'd be
as a
fun
part of
if
your character.
everyone just rolled a dice, because you don't get to choose who you're born to be.
I've done that for
Rolling the
characters.
dice is
Black
so
or
difficult
whatever.
because there's 27 races on average.
God, what would you roll for that?
Xanathar's doesn't include. I've used the Xanathar. They have a rolling table for randomized characters, and I've used that for NPC.
Go.
It's so hard though to do it because can't really roll anything because you would never get into like anything under like 5 if you roll multiple dice or you add something to it. So it's kind of difficult.
Oh, well, you would have
Yeah.
to basically you'd roll with a computer. Roll 20, computer could do anything.
I guess so.
Roll
I guess so,
one
but then it's not a
D27.
roll.
Exactly.
It's just random. Just get a randomizer. Get it.
Yeah.
That's what
dice.
you just
That's
need.
what
the
die
You need the
is.
wheel of races.
the ultimate one is the wheel. You just have a little
We need the
spinning wheel like the Twister. And just see what you get.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Connor. Like, I don't think your race gives like it's definitely gonna alter who your character is to an
Mhm.
extent, without a doubt. But if you're just trying to build the character into a thing or a person, I feel like there's always an exception. Like, going back to my half orc wizard. Half orcs get bonuses to what, strength and con?
Yep.
Okay, so you're a hefty wizard. Maybe you put when you roll your stats, you put your main one still into intelligence
Mhm.
and charisma and wisdom and all that, and then you get these bumps to your strength and constitution. I mean, it doesn't really restrict you to being a barbarian or a fighter or a rogue or whatever, or a ranger. It's just you're going to have a little more, you're going to be a little bit better in the things that you'd normally be shitty at as a wizard that we would think like, you know, a elf would be.
Well, now you say that you say you're making your argument from a character role-playing standpoint, but then you give a completely mechanical example. So my thing is like, for instance, if we keep going the half-orc, the entire thing is that, one, you have to have an orc parent, and then assumably usually a human, but you can go like other races. You can go human, you can go dwarf, you can go elf, you can get crazy with it. But the fact is that, as we said before, like half-orc is one of the races that traditionally is discriminated against. And so growing up in a certain way, unless you were kind of like in the lap of luxury with your non-orcish parent and given a good education and all that sort of thing, people expect you to act a certain way. And those expectations inevitably shape who you are. Now, I know I'm probably I go like almost like literary in my character development and like how the world changes me and all that sort of thing. But that's my take on like what you look like.
Well, there's two different approaches. There's this is the character I want to be. What is it? And this is my race, my class, my background, my things. What is my story? Connecting all those dots. What kind of character am I with these things that I've picked from the player handbook? I don't think either way is right or wrong. It's just a different approach. But I like the narrative, the storytelling, and the player getting into their character mindset. Not every single type of character is going to be as easy to play as the other ones. You want to push yourself and learn how to roleplay different things, but like for we're doing a show, we want people to be falling into characters that they can naturally play really well, without it being a massive struggle. So with that, I kind of look at it from our own biases, like what is our channel doing? That's kind of how I look at talking about all the topics that we talk about.
Well, Sean, we're special. So
you're special.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm special.
Everyone's special.
Yeah, so our approach was, what kind of character are you going to be able to roleplay really well? And I think that was way before, well, what race does that make you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit it. I kind of wanted Curse to be a Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Because mechanically, for a fighter with heavy armor master and Stone's endurance, like
it'd be hard to kill.
Yeah, that's pretty broken. At low level, like I'm already. If none of you have watched the early session 0 shit, I get hit a lot with a lot of sharp objects.
You get hit a lot when there's not a lot of combat.
And my heavy armor master has saved me over a dozen times from being killed outright.
Especially when we told you.
And for those who don't know, heavy armor master lets you have basically a 3 damage soak for any non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, which in low levels it comes up a lot.
Mhm.
It's good, but obviously ask your DM if they allow the 3 damage soak to be also in magical
Yes.
damage, because people in 5e like giving their players magic items and then giving their enemies magic items, which some basic fantasy games, they shouldn't be getting them that early, but yeah.
Mhm.
So in HotA, Kurtz does have resistance against magical damage as well from those 3 types.
Yes.
Mhm.
3 types, not from fire.
Yeah, but if I had
My bad.
Stone's Endurance
My
as well
bad.
as human,
All right.
or as
They
a
blew up
Goliath,
from their
that's
suicide bomb.
Magmen
Yeah, that's-
aren't supposed to explode each other. Yeah.
They're not supposed to. Yeah, they're not supposed to ignite this entire
Yeah.
explosion. As I was pulling
Chain
out my
reaction.
hair.
fine.
Oh my god, that was
My bad.
Yeah, but no, I mean, if I wanted to be min-max, which I hate,
To be
I
optimal.
would have been a Goliath. Yeah, I would have been a Goliath or a half-orc.
Imagine
Um,
getting the
but-
same items that you rolled too. The
Oh my
belts
God.
and shit with the Goliath. That would be so cool.
He'd be unstoppable. He'd be unstoppable.
Yeah,
Well,
that's some
that-
stuff
that-
you guys. that's
Technically,
some
he
stuff
didn't
you
roll
guys-
those items. See, they were traded to him.
I actually
Oh,
did
that's true.
roll. The only thing I traded was the 1, and I already had one that
Right.
was shittier.
You got
Yeah,
the
the better.
better.
Yeah.
Of the, yeah.
Yeah, so I still would have been broken as fuck as a fighter. But no, like human, just
What did you guys decide with Connor's weapons that he rolled up? Are you guys cross trading
Oh,
anything, or is he
I'm-
keeping those?
It's been decided.
He's
I don't know.
trading.
Has been
He's
decided.
trading this. Isn't
I
he
traded
trading
my
this-
third item.
No secrets.
spoilers.
No secret.
I traded my third item to AJ. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Everything else I kept, and the second one I'm kind of stuck with.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, what? Oh wait,
You
no,
can
the second.
you can
wait,
always
no, hold
sell
on.
it.
What's the second one? Wait, what is the second?
I thought
Something
you
that-
said you don't want spoilers, AJ.
Yeah.
You don't want
but I
spoiler,
should
come
know
on,
this.
man.
Why did I not know this? I'm gonna look at the
I just
chat
got yelled at.
I'm gonna look at the chat log.
It's something I'm not proficient in. Let's put it that way.
Hey, just sell it, man. That's what I'm gonna
That's
do.
the plan, and hopefully I can buy something that's of equal or
Yeah.
value. That's
Sell, trade, same
Wait
difference.
a minute.
No.
Oh gosh darn it! What was it then? Oh, no.
Buy yourself you're
I
playing a
bet
ranger.
somebody-
Buy yourself an enchanted longbow of doom or some shit like that.
Enchanted longbow
Of
doom.
Doom or something.
Get yourself like a pet bear. Like
A
you know,
pet bear. But what
Yeah.
can you do with a pet bear? Rangers.
fuck
So...
people up. Have you ever seen a bear?
You can make a.
I've seen a
why don't
bear,
you ask a
And
very
I've seen you
serious
kill a bear pretty fast.
I live
Killed
in
a bear way too
Montana.
fast.
I live in Montana. That's some bullshit. That bear would not have died
That's
that
right.
quickly.
It really wouldn't. That would have been a dragged out battle to the death.
Yeah,
And you cut it in half in like seconds.
because I'm awesome. Kurt's Glasgow is awesome.
Oh,
Buy Kurt's potions, guys.
Kurt's
Kurtz
Anyone's
is
watching-
broken.
Kurt's are-
Buy
Kurt's
the
merch.
DM potions. The DM needs the potions.
Don't listen to him. He's a dev. He's a dev. He wants us all
He's
to
a
die.
dev.
I
do.
am all for you thinking he's broken and let him just get nerfed. I'm good with that. I'll send the back.
Oh, you.
Oh,
Oh,
I have
and-
my eyes on you, AJ. As a
Yeah, you
wizard
got-
maid myself, I know what you're going to do.
I'm a
with
goddamn
No,
human
no,
fighter. Listen, you were like
Especially
wizards and bards and
Especially
shit.
choosing your school that you are. So,
at least it was an illusion.
Oh, but illusion.
illusion can be dealt with pretty easily, actually.
Oh, that's what.
Illusion's one of those small things that, if the DM knows what they're doing, they can work around it. But he's in one of those interesting areas. If he plays it right, he plays it right.
But
We're
speaking
multi-class
of
and
wizards
muscle
and
wizard.
Grin,
We're getting off topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
We're
Grin,
actually going to transition from humans to the dwarfs.
Oh damn!
The
I
dwarves.
thought it was elves.
Yes. Yes, dwarf time.
The mountain dwellers.
So.
I think we should talk the dwarves in the Scottish accent for everything we say now. If we embody the dwarf.
No.
So, what is the since we start with humans, what are the stereotypical view of humans and dwarves of each other?
Nancy boy.
We're not going to do every
There-
race to every race, but we will do every race compared to humans.
I would
mean-
say
I mean, the big
Dwarves
thing
are
is that dwarves notice that humans are much significantly shorter lived than they are.
Okay.
And there's sort of blips
Okay.
And dwarves, at least in D&D and a good number of other fantasy tropes, are very big on honor and family. And just they have long memories, so grudges tend to run very deep and long.
They're like giants.
But humans, to them, I'd say, are pushovers. I mean,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
think about it, the dwarves are resilient with a capital R. They
They are
resistors,
resilient.
They're poison resistors. They are like, they're stone. They're hardy.
They are hardy. I would say when it comes to most points, I feel like dwarves are on neutral terms with humans.
Yeah.
But that's only because of humans' creativity and how it sometimes help the dwarves
Well,
when it comes to their
humans
creation.
are consumers, and dwarves provide a
Service of creation.
not so much a commodity. Like they provide because they do all
They're
the
miners.
mining and stuff like that, and humans love
Amazing blacksmiths.
They love
The best
buying
blacksmith.
things and using things. So I mean that benefits the economy of the dwarves.
I'd honestly argue that dwarves are probably the closest allied race to humans.
Yeah, I would agree.
Really?
I would agree with that.
You think that dwarves over halflings?
Halflings?
Yeah.
They never really
Halflings?
show up.
Yeah,
Well, that's
they're
'cause you just never see them. You keep ignoring them.
Yeah.
They
they're
go
not
between your legs and you
cowardly,
didn't notice
but
it.
they're
just
seclusive.
not there. Yeah, they're not like if you think of like the big three, it's humans, elves, dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
good for
halflings
you.
are little people under the table while
Yeah.
they're having their argument because they just pickpocket and run away because they can.
That's
They don't
racist.
And if you looked at like if you dropped
I don't like
a
halflings.
human commoner in a dwarven village or a halfling village, which one are they going to fit in the best? More naturally, I think dwarven, hands down.
Yeah. Dwarf.
I don't know. Dwarves. I don't know. In my games, I have a different view of dwarves. I'm not really sure. I know in HotA we have the hill dwarves, the mountain dwarves, with what's it?
Ironside.
Ironside?
Ironside,
Grimtoe and Ironside.
Grimtoe and Ironside. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I've always sort of just thought about inherently for dwarves is that they're sort of. I've always thought that they worship their ancestors.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if anyone else feels that, but it just makes the most sense to me because in every mythology and story and everything like that, it's like, oh, we're from the stone and everything like that, and we return to the stone and blah 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 blah. I don't know. I view the dwarves as sort of ancestor worshipping warrior caste. More of like a caste system race. They definitely deal with humans. They deal with elves.
Let's because we're still trying to figure out how we're going to be doing this process of going through the races, but we have a player handbook. So let's do let's rotate people reading the blurbs about them. That way everybody can just be on the same page, because we can come in this with Tolkien viewpoints, we can come in this with World of Warcraft viewpoints, but this is D&D. So I think if we define terminology of what D&D, we're playing 5th edition, so what 5th edition D&D of this race is, and then we'll just kind of alternate, each section. So let's start with the short and stout portion. One person can just start going with it, and then because they're not very long, there's not that many of them.
No.
So.
I'll start. I've already got it pulled up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Short and stout, bold and hardy, dwarves are known as skilled warriors, miners, and workers of stone and metal. Though they stand well under 5 feet tall, dwarves are so broad and compact that they can weigh as much as humans standing nearly 2 feet taller. Their courage and endurance are also easily a match for any of the larger folk.
Okay.
Dwarven skin ranges from a deep brown to a paler hue tinged with red, but the most common shades are light brown or deep tan, like certain tones of earth. Their hair, worn long but in simple styles, is usually black, gray, or brown, though paler dwarves often have red hair. Male dwarves value their beards highly and groom them carefully. Same.
Okay. Connor, you want to do long memory, long grudges?
Sure. Dwarves can live to be more than 400 years old, so the oldest living dwarves often remember a very different world. For example, some of the oldest dwarves living in Citadel Felbar, in the world of the Forgotten Realms, can recall the day more than 3 centuries ago when orcs conquered the fortress and drove them into exile that lasted over 250 years. This longevity grants them a perspective on the world that shorter-lived races such as humans and halflings lack. Dwarves are solid and enduring like the mountains. They love weathering the mountains they love, weathering the passage of centuries with stoic endurance and little change. They respect the traditions of their clans, tracing their ancestry back to the founding of the most ancient strongholds of the youth of the world, and don't abandon the traditions lightly. Part of those traditions is devotions to the gods of the dwarves, who uphold the dwarven ideals of industrious labor, skill in battle, and devotion to the forge. Individual dwarves are determined and loyal, true to their world and decisive in action, sometimes to the point of stubbornness. Many dwarves have a strong sense of justice, and they are slow to forget wrongs they have suffered. A wrong done to a dwarf is a wrong done to the dwarf's entire clan, so what begins as one dwarf's hunt for vengeance can become a full-blown clan feud.
Dingwald.
Okay, AJ, clans and kingdoms.
Well, I mean, going right into them.
Yeah.
So, the dwarven kingdoms stretch deep beneath the mountains, where the dwarves mine gems and precious metals and forge items of wonder. They love the beauty and artistry of precious metals and fine jewelry, and in some dwarves, this love festers into avarice. Whatever wealth they can't find in their mountains, they gain through trade. They dislike boats, so enterprising humans and halflings frequently handle trade and dwarven goods along the water routes for them. Makes it easier. Trustworthy members of other races are welcome in dwarf settlements, though some areas are off limits even to them. The chief unit of dwarven society is the clan, and the dwarves highly value social standing. Even dwarves who live far in their own kingdoms cherish their clan identities and affiliations, recognize related dwarves, and invoke their ancestors' name in oaths and curses. To be clanless is the worst fate that can befall a dwarf. Dwarves in other lands are typically artisans, especially weaponsmiths, armorers, and jewelers. Some become mercenaries or bodyguards, highly sought after for their courage and loyalty.
And Spaz? Gods, gold, and clan.
My PDF's actually not loading up, and I've been trying to get to it, so I can't see it actually.
Dwarves who take up the adventuring life might be motivated by a desire for treasure, for its own sake, for a specific purpose, or even out of an altruistic desire to help others. Other dwarves are driven by the command or inspiration of a deity, a direct calling, or simply a desire to bring glory to one of the dwarf gods. Clan and ancestry are also important motivators. A dwarf might seek to restore a clan's lost honor, avenge an ancient wrong the clan suffered, or earn a new place within the clan after having been exiled. Or a dwarf might search for the axe wielded by a mighty ancestor lost in a field of battle centuries ago. How do you guys like starting off the races with this? With reading that off? Is it needed or not?
Interesting, because I think that they're the most, like, even if you go back to, I mean, I was too young. I wasn't even born yet. The original D&D, I'm pretty sure it was like 3 races, like human, elf, dwarf. Right. And like the 4 archetypes, like wizard, cleric. I don't know too much about like 1E, so. But it's like the typical, D&D, like warrior, wizard, healer, and mage. Or, wait, rogue. Yeah.
Okay. We're actually at a good spot to go on our first break. So when we come back, we will dive into the specifics of dwarfs. So we will try to jump in and play some of the mini games with you guys on the chat. So the most popular one is exclamation point heist. And we'll try to rob some banks with you. But we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thanks for sticking around, guys. At the end of our stream tonight, we are going to be opening up viewer Q&A, where you guys can ask us any questions you want. It could be about D&D. It could be about our campaign. It could be about our lives personally. We love to hear from you guys, and we'll probably end up doing a giveaway as well. So, all right, we will see you guys in 5 minutes.
Bye.
Bye.
5 minutes.
That would be so.
All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We left off reading the particulars about dwarves, and now we'll go into the nuances. what do you guys think about dwarves? And what's their place in the world of D&D? And what do you dislike about them?
They're short.
So is that a pro or a con?
I don't personally like the short races just because of their lack of movement speed. That's my only problem with them. But that's a small thing I have a problem with them.
That's
Also,
why
I think
if you're
dwarfs
gonna
count as a
go small.
dwarf counts as a medium creature though, so they carry weight. But the thing doesn't affect them. But that's just more on the mechanics side.
they're stocky.
Yeah. They're stocky. Yeah,
I-
they're just giant balls.
I've always seen dwarves when it's ever shown and portrayed. There's this general sense that when they do something, as they had said, there's a very strong tendency towards their heritage and their clan, and there is this old kind of when we make something, we know how to make it and we make it right, and we are perfect at making it that exact way.
Right.
But just like the stone and other kinds of parts of their culture, with their stubbornness and their just little bit of like unwavering belief in things, they don't really change their designs or their mind that quickly. So a lot of the times when trouble or something like very much out of the ordinary happens to them, they're very difficult to adapt. And I think that's why they also like to probably pull from humans and other races, because it's, you know, everyone has their weaknesses and strengths, and that's probably one of the dwarves' weakness, I think, is they're very stoic.
Mhm.
Very stoic.
The
They're inflexible.
D&D.
Yeah, not flexible.
Not flexible.
I think that can make them easier to play, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's just how you have to react to everything, is just be a rock. You know, with a beard. Be a rock with a beard that
Not
likes
even-
gems. I mean,
I'd-
you
I'd
can have a
argue that.
personality,
I would
but I'm
argue
saying
that.
it's you never have to be like, oh shit, how would a Yanti react to, like it's so much more cut and dry for things.
They don't
think that-
react.
I think that for dwarves, it's like they have their morals, they have their goals, they have it's like everything they want to do in life,
The gods.
and that's it. That's it. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Oh, but what about this? Nah, fuck that. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do what I'm destined to do, what my clan expects me to do. And yeah, in some points of roleplay that's easier, but in some points of roleplay that's a little more difficult.
Certainly it leads to conflict, or it can.
Yeah.
Definitely
like-
at the stage room.
Yeah, it could be like my clan has a blood feud with this other dwarf clan, but this dwarf clan is someone we have to work with.
Well, let's look at the clan thing in HotA. What's going on with that, as far as you guys are aware?
Hill dwarves hate mountain dwarves.
So
It's a both side hate.
I definitely can see that there's a lot of similar struggles when it comes to clan and family. There's a great tendency for anyone who's been scorned or who has been wronged via honor-wise or other ones. They do still hold a very strong grudge against that one tiny thing.
event.
That one pinnacle point. Yep.
Okay.
Which we won't be spoiling. I'm trying my best not to spoil it.
Ironsides.
Yeah, and it seems like stop me if I'm giving too much away. It's nothing off that's not on the website.
Yeah,
But
if it's mentioned in the lore videos, it's common knowledge.
yeah, so you have the so in 5e, your basic dwarves. You have the hill dwarves and you have the mountain dwarves. In HotA, the hill dwarves, as the name suggests, lives in the hills, and they are more of the religious-based group. In fact, as far as I know, the mountain dwarves completely rejected the goddesses, who are the main gods of HotA.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the major schism of the dwarves.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you're going. You kind of just died there. It's like,
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
this is what happened. I don't know. In HotA, we had an interaction between two people in one of our previous sessions, where one was a hill dwarf, one was a mountain dwarf, and a usually sort of balanced-minded character was like, "Hey, I'm going to throw this motherfucker into the lava," and while that was very unexpected for the time, even for psychopath fighter. who was like shocked.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it's like, oh, clan feud. Okay, instant reaction, kill that motherfucker. And I think that's where you can get a lot of good stuff from dwarves in any game, is the whole clan thing, the caste system. Not even nobility and peasants, but the whole like level area of it. I think that's something that the dwarves sort of signify and can be used very, very well. Crimes, for instance, say like a lower caste was defending themselves against a higher caste. The higher caste is automatically going to win that trial or argument because they're just of a higher caste. And that leads to a lot of role play, that leads to a lot of interaction. But in HotA, it's kind of hard, at least for me, just because of the character I'm playing, to figure out which side I'm on. Because the mountain dwarves are steel toe, right?
Iron Toe.
Iron toe.
Yeah.
Oh, Grim Toe?
Grim
Toe,
Toe and
We
Iron.
got there.
He kicked a motherfucker in the chest. Yeah. And they're the ones who don't believe in the goddesses anymore. So later on down in the campaign, Curse is going to be like, maybe you're right. But they're kind of viewed in HotA lore as the bad guys, or the sort of like negatively cast people.
Okay.
So it's a hard thing to, it's good. I love it. It's just, if you're going to do that kind of thing in your own campaign or with dwarves or everything, like, you got to realize that they're going to hold to their beliefs, and their beliefs are like iron. You're not going to change their mind. You're not going to convince them. I think that dwarves, once they make up their mind, because they do live for so long and they do have such strong
Conviction.
Yeah, that they're going to hold to that no matter what.
And it takes like an earth-shaking event to make them change. And then once they do, if dwarves disagree, it's going to make a huge chasm between them. Where like they're probably...
Civil War.
It's going to be near impossible for them to ever reconcile that difference, because it took so much force to rip a mountain in half.
But that's what's great about them, playing as them or having them as NPC, is because if you know your convictions as a player playing as a dwarf, you're good. That's all you have to worry about. What are my convictions? A through D, cool. Everything else doesn't matter.
That's what I was saying before the break with, like, it can make role-playing easier, is that kind of thing, to where if you know what it is and it's established thing in your world, you know, this is just a way to portray dwarves. There are tons of different ways to do all of this. You know, we're just using our campaign as, you know, the, you know, a way of doing it. But it can easily give you something to fall back on every time, because they are so... they don't like surprises. They like routine. You know what I mean? So you can routinely play the character. Now you can have a personality. They're not all, you
Scottish.
Know, blocks of stone.
Yeah, they have personalities, but just the race itself is definitely not ambitious like the other ones.
Yeah. Another thing that's fun about dwarves is that, at least I think in most genres, is that they know how to party.
That's
like
true.
They are very well known for drinking. They're very well known for like having a good time, and just like when they're done with work, they will let loose and they will have fun, which is a really cool dichotomy where they're very strict to sense of duty versus like letting loose.
You said duty.
Duty.
It is a word I use.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Nah, that was about it. Just that fun. They have a fun aspect, as opposed to like if we talk about elves, like so very often they're just portrayed as aloof and just above it all, and so it's kind of hard to. You're kind of fighting against that playing an elf, but dwarf you can really sort of sink in if you get a good moment.
Yeah, I think it's a good comparison between dwarves and elves. Is dwarves are like, yeah, we're gonna get fucked up and drink all of this alcohol ever, and like fuck a dead moose.
I'm
An
glad
elf
there are
is
moose in this mountain.
just
Mountain moose.
That's
It's a
fine.
very famous.
Mountain moose.
They're
But an
just
elf is going to be like, oh,
mountain
well, the future holds so many possibilities. Like some, aloof elf shit. A dwarf doesn't give a shit. A dwarf's a frat boy with an infinite cake. That's great because it does present this excellent dichotomy between like this loyal, steadfast, beliefs and everything, like that, and then just an 18-year-old kid at his first caker. It's hilarious.
I mean, you do probably have a little bit of similarity where at that age, there's a strong tendency to believe that you're an adult enough to know whatever you know and whatever your opinions are, you're right on them. Or you've been like educated enough to know what the world is like. It's like, I know the world. You can't tell me what. I could definitely see that being part of their characteristics.
It's the legal drinking age for dwarves.
Dude.
Is there one?
Two.
Is
Yeah, I
there
was
one?
gonna say, I think it might happen when they start to breastfeed because the alcohol
Sure, as
is
soon
in the system.
No, it's as soon as they stop breastfeeding.
Oh, okay.
That's their substitute. It's
So the
just
problem with that one, Dylan, is either they're very young or they're very old when they finally stop. Which is it?
Listen, you never stop drinking if you're a dwarf.
never said.
No, I'm referring to the breastfeeding.
Oh, same.
I just realized our jar is not on the thing, and I can't get it to.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're
We
talking
don't
about
have a jar.
we're talking about drinking, and as the mug.
Cheers.
Yeah, I can't.
And we're not allowed to drink on stream, so sorry guys.
I mean, you
Not
say
after
that
the
as
last-
you do.
not after the
The
last
DM and the
time
dab is like they're drinking something.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Sean's hyped up on coffee. But
Yeah,
he's
dude,
been like
I've
that for
been-
the last week.
fuck.
I'm on Xanax, so
I'm drinking a pot a day. Like it's.
I don't even know why you don't just drink out of the pot at this point. It'd be
It's
more efficient than
this-
pouring out.
This cup is
coffee.
pretty damn close.
Hey guys, if you donate 4 potions to Kurt's Glaskin, I'll make Sean drink the whole pot.
I'll
Ooh.
make Sean drink the whole pot. How will
Chug
you
it
make
all.
How will you make him?
And I've
Will you drive to his house?
I'll threaten to leave.
I've
Threaten to leave. Oh god.
slowly started working towards just
Not the
drinking
face.
black coffee too.
I'm the eye candy of the stream, all right?
So
You're the face of the party.
why do you
I don't care
like
what anyone
Kurtz
says.
as a dwarf?
What?
Kurtz has a lot of things that are very similar in terms of his qualities as a dwarf, but why would you not pick him as a dwarf?
Kurtz as a dwarf. It wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind. I thought Tiefling. I thought Goliath. I even thought ASMR.
Ooh, that would have been interesting.
Dwarf. Their convictions are too steadfast. Kurtz. And for those of you watching who haven't really seen everything, and those of you who have, Kurtz is a lot more complex than I'm able to play him as in Session 0. There's been hints to it.
Hints. I thought you said ents. I was like,
No, there's been hints. He's a very conflicted character.
Session 0 is very much first gear only.
Yeah,
You guys
he
are-
has he has his doubts and his fears and everything like that. And I think a dwarf wouldn't have those doubts about what he's doing. A dwarf would be like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Kurtz, on the other hand, whether or not I voice it or not as the character, I am thinking about it as, is this really the thing to do? Is this really what I need to do to keep everyone safe? This is what I need to do to defeat the enemy. So as a dwarf, Kurtz wouldn't have those doubts. And that would make him, to me at least, less of a character, because he'd just be an autonomous killing machine at that point.
But
And
is that
bad? It's not bad for a game. It's bad for a show.
Very good way of putting it.
Okay.
So are we done diddling with dwarves, dabbling in their derrieres and other dainty places?
Oh, we haven't even talked about. Let's talk about. Do we want to talk about the mechanics of what you get as a hill dwarf versus mountain dwarf and all that sort of thing?
Sure, why not?
All right.
Funky shit.
So we won't take long. So Hill Dwarf,
Yeah, it's quick.
so all dwarves, first of all, you get a +2 to your Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Your size is medium, but you're generally less than 5 feet tall. Your speed, as has been brought up, is only 25 feet, which is 5 feet shorter than the general speed of most races. You do get dark vision. You get something called Dwarven Resilience, which means you have advantage on poison saving throws or saving throws against poison, and you have resistance to all poison damage. And you automatically get proficiency with certain weapons, including battle axe, hand axe, light hammer, and warhammer. You also get one choice of tools, which is smiths, brewers, or masons' tools. You get this thing called stone cunning, where you have advantage on history checks to you actually get expertise for history checks to basically identify stonework and that sort of thing. You get dwarvish as well as common, and then you break it down into the 2 sub races, which are hill dwarf and mountain dwarf. So hill dwarf, you get a +1 to your wisdom score, and you also get a +1 HP for every level you ever take, no matter what class you do.
Damn.
Mountain dwarves, you get a +2 to your strength score. I think it's the only one where you get a +2 and 2.
You get a +2, yeah.
And
Not really.
It's
It,
Goliath's.
It's that and also proficiency to light and medium armor. So
yeah.
Don't Dragonborn get 2?
No.
No.
they get a
They're the
+1
only
and
one.
a +1.
I think Goliath's get a
Nope.
+2. Really?
Nope.
Nope, they don't. Nope. This is why it's like traditionally every class it's 3.
It's 2 and 1. Yeah.
+2 and a +1 or +1.
A couple of
That's the only
+1s.
exception because they get the.
Well, also half elves. We get the
Half-elves
+2,
are
+1,
powerful.
+1. Half elves are OP as
Yeah.
fuck.
Is that the variant half elf?
No, just
No,
plain
that's a
half
regular
elf.
half elf. Gets a +2 to
Charisma.
charisma,
Oh, yeah, and one
and then
right.
+1/+1 anywhere else. They're
It's-
pretty powerful.
Don't worry, guys. We know what we're talking about. We're professionals.
Are you sure?
Semi-professional,
Sheesh.
maybe.
Professional.
Oh, I'm full on ready for being professional.
I'm just here for the fan art, guys. All right.
Yes. I want to see the
Which
ships.
You guys
I
can
want
submit
to.
by sending to
We do have an
RPG
Instagram.
at Gmail or social medias. Yes.
I'll put the Instagram up at the end of this stream. Actually, we just created it. I'm going to be putting some of the concept art that AJ drew for us, some of the memes that we share between ourselves, stuff like that.
It's over.
There's a question, I
Over
guess, when it comes to mechanics for dwarfs. Obviously, dwarfs are interesting. They get a +2 constitution and all these other abilities, especially dark vision. And the only bad thing is their speed reduction and stuff like that. They're
But
not
they can wear
vision.
heavy armor though without further penalized though. So,
yeah.
No.
yeah, they can.
It's
No.
it's light and medium.
I thought it
No,
was
the
heavy.
thing.
Light and medium for the Oh, you mean no movement?
No,
power.
you gain
Movement power.
proficiency if you go into mountain dwarf, but you're not penalized for wearing heavy armor
That's what I'm
like
saying. That,
other races.
yeah. So that's where it
Which-
evens out.
It's
But-
nice.
I
But
think
the
they
interesting
got rid of that's no longer a penalty, isn't it? I don't think
It
it's
I
is.
think it is a
It's
penalty.
a penalty only if you don't have high enough strength to wear the heavy armor.
Right, yeah, it's a strength thing now. It's no longer. I do remember in the 4th edition, the dwarves had that thing where it's like heavy armor does not impede you, but yeah, they got rid of that.
Yeah, it says your base walking speed is 25 feet. Your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor.
Oh, it does say that. Wait, has
But-
anyone else? Oh, okay.
That's
so,
just
So yeah, you can be a
dwarf
weak
across
ass
the board.
dwarf and still wear plate armor.
yeah.
Yeah.
A dwarf
So
with
I
one
guess-
strength is still running around.
Hey.
I guess here's my question in all of it. What would you think is a considerably strange class to play as a dwarf, but works consistently well with all the things it gets?
Rogue.
Rogue? I don't know. I think wizard or sorcerer is very interesting playing as a
Oh,
dwarf.
you mean the
since
fact that you just get to
A
wear the
strength-
armor?
No, a strength rogue.
strength rogue. Ooh.
So
Kind of
you're
like a-
sneaking up.
like
you
a-
sneak up behind a motherfucker with like a 2-handed battle axe.
Oh,
I would not say that's an assassin rogue for sure.
Listen,
Well,
that's
absolutely.
your attack.
Sneak attack,
it's
though.
assassin, but if heavy armor doesn't impede you, you're just sneaking around like I got this big fucking
I
axe.
think monk
So-
is the worst class to be as a dwarf.
I
Oh,
feel like-
I've done a monk. I did a monk dwarf.
I'd argue that, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the,
you get a +1 in wisdom and +2 in con. That's not bad at all.
Yeah. Or yeah, it's pretty nice.
I mean, the
But
worst.
I don't
is-
know.
But monks need to be quick, and dwarfs aren't. Monks
No,
don't need
At level
armor.
2, you get plus 10 to your speed, so you're already faster than everyone else already at level 2.
And if you're a shadow monk, you can teleport to
You
shadows.
can teleport,
Yeah, but
which is
also
broken.
monks
Should
don't
be-
need
should be
armor,
deleted.
and dwarfs are set up to be armor masters.
Only mountain dwarfs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're also capable of doing a good multi-class between monk and what's it called?
Druid, cleric.
Not druid, fighter. Fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
With their
like
with a high constitution, they're very capable of going into other beefier classes. But I've always seen, especially the mountain dwarf, a very capable sorcerer class because they get the weapon proficiencies naturally. Then if you go mountain dwarf, you get the armor proficiencies, which is you don't usually get, but it's nice to have. And then you get that strength as well, which
can
is
see
usually
that.
Dumps gets at.
I think the user just made a good point. I believe it's rogues. Do they need finesse weapon to make a
Yes.
They
suit?
need
You
finesse
do.
weapons.
Yeah, so,
So
there's only
battle axe would
one
not work.
finesse weapon, and that's the
There's
hand
a
axe.
feat. I'm pretty sure there's a feat
Right?
where they don't.
No, there's not.
No.
Not
That
not
could
I'm
be
aware
a
of.
feat. That could be a feat that you can ask your DM, though, that you are able to choose certain weapons that become finesse. But I would only think,
Yeah.
I would only think you'd be able to make light weapons that don't have the finesse ability into finesse.
I think hand axes are.
Maybe.
An
The
arcane
only
Dwarves.
reason why the hand axe would
Dwarves.
work is because it's
They're not.
slow. It says anything.
Dwarves, not classes.
That's true.
Dwarfs are powerful.
Dwarves.
Dwarves
are
are
powerful.
powerful.
I just imagine if it was a
And
rogue,
doors are even more
pulling out
powerful.
hand axe and just throwing them.
All right.
I have a question for everyone else. Is there anything that you give to dwarf? Because I know most of us are DMs.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you do to dwarves in your campaigns that you think is applicable to the whole race? Like, for instance, I give dwarves in my campaign, the males. It's a patriarchal society,
Beard wax.
and but they have these daggers that sort of signify their station. And stealing that dagger is like an offense punishable by death. The dagger is, sort of decorated and filigree to each family and stuff like that, their ancestors and everything like that. So is there something that you do in your campaigns that make the dwarves more inclined to this sort of stereotypical
I have.
ancestor clan thing?
I have seen one where they do it, and it's a lot of fun. Is they actually apply another stat, and they call it the honor stat. And basically, your decisions and your actions can either hurt or improve your honor and standing among other clans and dwarves. And it's kind of a way to make your decisions a little bit more impactful, and also what you choose to do could be a little bit more, I could get this reward, but I'm going to lose some honor, which is going to maybe hurt me in some other things. So honor is something I could see being a very useful little tool to share in those.
I feel like if you're going to do that, you need to apply that to the whole party.
Yeah, usually the best way to work that
Yeah.
is you have an entire group of dwarfs in a one shot, like a dwarf thing.
Yeah.
A city, the end of the mountain. But yeah. But here's one thing I do think just to quickly, since you mentioned it,
Yeah, no, that's
dwarves have beards?
really cool.
Do your females have beards?
That is.
No,
That is.
because they're women.
Controversial thing.
It's a question. I mean, because if you gotta think about it, that's one of the things that people will. There's a 50-50.
Yeah, some people run female dwarfs no beards. Some run female dwarfs with beards, but they just look like males, so everyone thinks they're all males. Some people do all dwarves are male and they come from eggs.
Wait, what?
Really?
Yeah.
So the dwarves are gay.
The dwarves are asexual, AJ. They're
The
like
dwarfs.
I mean,
come-
but there's a question.
dwarfs
right there, right? I mean,
grow
Listen.
out of the mountain.
Listen,
They are
AJ,
pure stone.
all the Democrats are turning all the fucking frogs gay. So the dwarves are hatching out of eggs.
right. But I mean, like,
No,
there's
it's not
asexual
eggs, it's
production
rock.
with another dwarf, but if they're going into a hole in the mountain, I mean, are they still at that point? Or?
I'm just imagining like a dwarf just like smashes through a wall fully grown,
Headbutts,
and
just
it's just
headbutts it.
it just headbutts, and that's it. That's its birth. It's just a hole in the wall, and that's its birth. That's all it is. You go to this mountain, and it's just this room with a bunch of holes in it. It's like, what has happened in here?
Mhm.
Strangeness of it all. Mystery.
The hatching chamber.
That's why they have to keep digging deeper because they need to find new.
They
But
would
at
find
that
more
point, wouldn't
dwarves.
you make the
I don't know
dwarves
if
elementals in a sense?
you guys
Yeah.
are aware of this little tidbit, but since you three are here, you're gonna get a little Easter egg if you don't know it.
Ooh.
So about the dagger thing you were asking, we have something similar, arm rings.
Oh, cool.
So the dwarves have arm rings, and it's the same thing. It's all their honors tied to this thing, and where it comes from is very important.
Yeah.
If they say they mean what they say, they'll swear it on their arm ring and stuff like that. So if a dwarf ever gets caught lying while swearing on their, it's pretty much death or
It's
dishonor.
like their caste system kind
Right.
of thing. Yeah,
Right.
okay. Cool.
If you don't have your arm ring, well, you're not a dwarf.
So Finley will not know this, but you guys will going into it.
Fuck you,
Unless
Finley.
Kyle's watching this.
Well, I mean, this is
He's-
Kyle with, but we know that's not the case.
Finley Shenanigan is in the tavern right now getting some hanky-panky. So
All right.
cheer him on by
We
giving us
do
cheers.
Need to shift to the next category, which is elves.
Elves.
So
Peaceful race.
the
Hey,
last
elves.
of the three
What?
main. So, Andrew, is there anything you'd like to say about elves before we start reading from them, since you are elf in our campaign?
Oh, well. There's a lot of diversity when it comes to what your elf is in terms of the world and how they exist in it. And I think it's one of those things where you should strongly talk to your DM and see how they like to put a twist on the elven race. Because a lot of the times, even in the most classic way, there are always tiny little tidbits that
Yep.
make you go, oh, that's a new way of thinking about it.
Okay. Let's have you kick off the elven reading, Andrew.
Which part, though? Do you want me to go to Slender and Graceful? Or
Yes.
All right.
Slender and graceful.
Slender and Graceful, just like myself.
Oh, you're more svelte, darling.
Okay. I'll remember.
Oh, do y'all need some alone time?
Yeah.
With myself? By
I can
myself?
definitely
No,
argue.
I can deal with that one myself. But anyways. So, with their unearthly grace and fine features, elves appear hauntingly beautiful to humans and members of many other races. They are slightly shorter than humans on average, ranging from well under 5 feet tall to just over 6. They are more slender than humans, weighing only 100 to 145 pounds. Males and females are about the same height, and males are only marginally heavier than the female. Elves' coloration encompasses the normal human range and also includes skin in shades of copper, bronze, and almost bluish white, hair of green or blue, and eyes like pools of liquid gold or silver. Elves have no facial and little body hair. They favor elegant clothing in bright colors, and they enjoy simple yet lovely jewelry.
A timeless perspective, Connor.
Elves can live well over 700 years, giving them a broad perspective on events that might trouble the shorter-lived races more deeply. They are more often amused than excited, and more likely to be curious than greedy. They tend to remain aloof and unfazed by petty happenstance. When pursuing a goal, however, whether adventuring on a mission or learning a new skill or art, elves can be focused and relentless. They are slow to make friends and enemies, and even slower to forget them. They reply to petty insults with disdain, and to serious insults with vengeance. Like the branches of a young tree, elves are flexible in the face of danger. They trust in diplomacy and compromise to resolve differences before they can escalate to violence. They have been known to retreat from intrusions into their woodland homes, confident that they can simply wait the invaders out. But when the need arises, elves reveal a stern martial side, demonstrating skill with sword, bow, and strategy.
Hidden Woodland Realms, Dylan.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Most elves dwell in small forest villages hidden among the trees. Elves hunt game, gather food, and grow vegetables, and their skill and magic allow them to support themselves without the need for clearing and plowing land. They are talented artisans, crafting finely worked clothes and art objects. Their contact with outsiders is usually limited, though a few elves make a good living trading crafted items for metals, which they have no interest in mining. Elves encountered outside their own lands are commonly traveling minstrels, artists, or sages. human nobles compete for the services of elf instructors to teach swordplay or magic to their children. I didn't know that.
And Spaz, is your
Yes.
PDF working now or not?
Yes, it is working.
All right, exploration and adventure.
Yep. Elves take up a venture out of the Wonderland. Wonderlust? Wonderlust.
Wonderland. Will you?
Wonderland. It looks like Wonderland.
It does.
Since they are long-lived, they enjoy... So small. Hold on. They enjoy...
Centuries.
Centuries.
So small. Hold on. They enjoy centuries of exploring and discovery. They dislike the pace of human societies, which is regimented from day to day, but consistently changing over decades. So they find careers that it's all jumping around.
That let them travel freely.
Let them travel freely and set their own pace. Elves also enjoy exercising their martial prowess and gaining greater magical power. And adventuring allows that. Wait, what?
Adventuring allows them to do so. Some magic might join with rebels fighting against oppression, and others might become champions of moral causes.
Why is it doing this?
It's all good, man. All right,
Keeps jumping
so
around.
I think elves vary drastically with their sub-races compared to some of the other ones. They are almost completely different races, in my opinion, in some world settings.
Yeah.
But just taking just the base for elves, I think provide a kind of another polar difference between elves. So if humanity is the basis of everything, and all the other races are kind of exaggerations of a particular set of strengths and flaws humans have, I think if you... So the dwarves, the elves, and halflings, in my opinion, are like a third of human. Does that make sense? Like exaggerated, the flaws and the strengths. So human, dwarf, elf, halfling, I think that's why they are the basis of worlds. And then the other ones, like your dragonborn and warforged, like, I mean, they get crazy, but they get less and less like humans. So what part of that kind of trilogy of the three do you think elves fall into, as far as like an exaggerated part of humanity?
They're too far from humanity at that point.
I think if we want to like classify them, let's say into 4 elements, elves are like the wind. They're the intellect, the ingenuity, the mindfulness. Dwarves are the strength, the determination, and the consistency. Halflings, which we haven't gotten to yet, are like the soul, the heart, the emotion, the empathy. And humans themselves are sort of the passion, the drive, the love, and the pure, uncontained emotion. I don't know, like every elf in every book, media, movie, cartoon, whatever, is a very aloof, non-emotional at most times character. I mean, no matter what race they're playing either. I mean, if we look towards like let's use the most famous drow of ever, Dristuarden. He's still a very aloof character in regards to a protagonist. And I think they're just the intellect of like the 4 or the 3 main races. Humans are the emotion, dwarves are the sort of determination, and elves are the intellect. They think, they live for millennia. Like, they have time, and they realize that.
Okay.
Like a closely resembled other example that has been taken from elves that you might know, the Star Trek Vulcans are very much a tie-in and kind of a hat tip to them because they tend to also think more logically. They're less emotionally driven. They live much longer. Their lifespan is a bit more reserved. They keep back. They're more diplomatic. They prefer to take things slower. They have a sense that, you know, people are a bit more hot-headed. Humans, in turn, are more emotional and driven by those rather than thinking clearly. Elves would typically have a very similar mindset where, as they had said in the previous description, diplomacy first before going into a violent action. And if they do go into a violent action, they are going to make sure that they have a very good belief that they're going to win in that battle.
Yeah.
They're likely to take risks.
They're going to have the advantage, regardless.
Yeah, if they ever do, yeah.
I think that would be epic to have an elf character in D&D. His name is Spock.
I think that, I don't know, I think that since elves live for so long, they're not like humans. They're not willing to give up their lives for a cause. Because they know they're going to live for like hundreds and hundreds of years. So if they're willing to give their lives for a cause, that shithead better be a really good reason.
Because if you go by it, I'd say they're closer to Fae than they are to human.
Yes.
Dwarves are not Fae, but their closer thing is human. Halfling, closer to human. But elf is very close to Fae.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's right to say it, but I would classify, I guess, when it comes to things, at least looking at a human aspect, they're very lazy, which I don't think is the right way of putting it. Since they live so long, it's not lazy to them, it's just more of using one of their assets, which is longevity.
I feel like they're more reserved.
They are more reserved, which I feel like that could be a major flaw whenever playing an elf or trying to roleplay one. Is like, most of the time they're not going to care too much unless it's something that's really threatening or something that really has to be done, because then they'll be like, oh, we can do it later. We always have time.
I think the not resorting to emotions quickly makes them come across as arrogant or like they don't care, when that may not be true at all. They care, but they just, because they live so long, like, there's no need to rush to things. You know, like, humans have so much passion because they don't got very long. They got tons of stuff to get in to do, so they you know, 110% everything, and they crash and burn, or they, you know,
Succeed.
yeah, and it's glorious. You know, it's this huge thing, this moment when elves are like, they have so much time to get those joys and those, you know, the meaning out of things, that rushing into things, you usually make it messy. You know, it's just not a wise thing to do. I think elves try to be very wise about stuff, and wisdom usually means slowing the fuck down. You know, like, don't go into anything any faster than it needs to be. Understand the whole scope.
One good mindset, if you want to try and embody an elf as a character, is to think of the rest of the races like your favorite pet. Someone that you would keep with you for a long time, and you do love them, but you do know that they're on a different level of life, and you will expect them to die and perish before you, but that doesn't mean you don't cherish them any less. You can find an amazing dog, but it doesn't mean you go out onto the world looking for every possible stray. You just find that one beautiful golden retriever, and you're like, I like you.
It's a good boy.
Yeah, exactly. They do that. There's a strong belief that they know that the world exists, and they try to make sure, as they had said before, they farm and do other tasks to feed themselves agriculturally without disturbing or destroying the land to make farmland, for instance.
Is that how Ren views Kurtz? He's a good boy.
Oh, yeah, you're a dog. You are like a pit bull. You are basically like this vicious thing with spitting like rabies going on right now, and it's to collar you. Yeah.
It's sad, but it's kind of
Who's a good
true
psychopath?
how an elf
Who's a
works.
good psychopath? Yes, you are. You go kill all these people.
Now
Yes, you
sit, stay.
You have
play
a like
dead.
expect.
He tries. So many times has he tried the command words. Doesn't work.
So
No, it's fine because in the last campaign, if you all viewers here would watch session 0, Rin actually agreed with me in killing everyone, and that's the plan. Kill everyone.
Oh, when yeah.
isn't that terrifying though? That the wizard agree on killing everybody.
No, it's great.
Sometimes people
It's
gotta
terrifying.
die.
That's what I
that was a very extreme circumstance right there.
They kidnapped us and threw us in cells. We're gonna kill all of them. Their women, their children.
Once you started saying women and children, he kind of go. No,
I went to Anakin there for a second. I'm sorry. The women
He
and
killed,
the children too.
He killed younglings.
yeah, yeah. You could fall into that one.
Connor, you've been quiet. What do you think about elves?
So, like all of you, like a lot of the this main media tends to, as you said, make them sort of aloof and arrogant and sort of cold in their own way. The thing that I felt that elves sort of had this thing that they were supposed to have was this connection to nature, but I've never seen it really played out in any of the Dungeons and Dragons games I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my homebrew, I make elves a little special. So first of all, I basically make them sort of have a hippie-ish sort of idea to them, where they're very much about free love and they're very much about nature. Again, not wanting to disturb anything, but just like enjoying the thing that's offered to them, living one day at a time and actually living up and being very passionate. I also made it so the children are basically have arrested development where they it says they don't reach maturity until 100 years old. That means you're going to be a 1-year-old for like 10 years and your brain does not proceed at the speed of a human. It takes you 1 year to develop that way. And what I'm finding interesting is that one of my players is a half elf and was raised in elven society. And so while he was developing as a human speed, all the children surrounding him were just not changing. And so he was constantly moved from 1 year to the next decade's year. And so it was very jarring for him. And I thought that was a very interesting thing.
Speaking of that, there is that sense that people have talked about where you look at the examples and it says that they don't mature, until they're reaching around the age of 100. But if you go into someone's lore a little bit that D&D likes to explore, what they refer to is the fact that elves do not sleep, they go through a trance. And the trance in specific kind of context is a place where they start to meditate and bring in past lives and memories, parts of their whole that were part of them from lives past that they kind of start to rebuild their identity with. So during that time, between 1 and 100, they're still gathering every piece of them that had formed in the past. That's where they get their skills in the longbow and the short sword and the all those different weaponries. They get their extra knowledge in the languages. They have a great wealth that starts to filter in. And until that time, they don't necessarily know who they are. And they start to develop themselves as a person. So they don't reach that level of, I know who I am. Because when you say maturity for us as a human, there's 2 types. There's sexual maturity, and then there's mental maturity. And most of the times, we would all agree now that you've gotten past the age of a college student, you're past the 18-year-olds, you're past the 21-year-olds, you're past the 22-year-olds, and you go, yeah, they weren't mentally matured at that point. They were still discovering themselves. They were kind of
They could procreate, and they were responsible for their actions, but they're not wise. Yeah.
Right, they're not mentally mature.
Right.
So that's what I perceive when they say that. It's a sense of them kind of discovering who they are. And once they do at that point, and they've realized all their past lives, and their trance becomes fully reabsorbed into them, they then go off into the world, and that's when they start to enjoy and indulge in specific other things that they might not have done before, or things they might have truly loved back then that they realized I really had a great, and I can understand why these things are so great for me to go back to relive it once more and see what it was again, in hopes to see it again.
Forgive me, but no, this is really interesting. So you're saying that elves relive their past lives through trance?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
they
actually really interesting. I've
Which-
never thought about elves like that because they live for so long. It's oh yeah, well, you die. common conception of death, but that's actually
don't
really
ever
cool. Yeah, no, they don't ever really die. It's just like their memories erase themselves as they're born into their new body, and then through trance they regain these memories. But
we also
that's
have
kind of fucked up.
taken a different path for elves in the HotA world. Now, without spoiling too much, but giving some teaser stuff for these guys, AJ, what are you wanting to share about? Because this is a no metagaming thing, you know, like what you guys learn here, your characters don't know, you know.
I'm gonna murder you if you're a lich. I'm
um,
gonna cut your head right off. I've been practicing.
Is there any background about what makes elves different in our world that you want to share?
Well, I suppose the one thing that could be shared might be their origin and their belief.
Yep,
of,
go ahead.
Okay, so again, with the trance, in a sense, if you go by the old D&D one, it is a specific god that, as long as you remain faithful and true to that, you are able to basically be allowed him to gather your soul to put it back in a new body. In the HotA, the afterlife, or the part that they would pass on to afterwards, is actually the Fey Wilds.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fey Wilds are where the elves believe they have a very strong attachment to. And as long as they believe that it was created initially by the goddesses, if I remember, for
Mm-hmm.
all souls to go to,
Yep.
but only those who are
Believe in it.
truly believing, they are the ones who immediately return to, I believe that's the Summer Court.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you are a good person, perhaps, or you believe in the goddesses but not in the Feywild, you might be deposited in the, I believe that's the Court of Winter.
Or gloaming, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Gloom, yes.
I'm learning
Court
so
of
much
Winter.
right now.
That's a terrifying place to go. That's like hell right there.
I thought that was the Shadowfell.
Mab
Shadowfell
is not a bad person. She just likes death.
Mab is my queen in one
She's
campaign.
She's the queen of air and darkness.
But the
She is a
love
kind
air.
queen.
if I remember correctly, I believe when the elves trans in
also the queen of
HotA,
magic.
they are connecting back to the Feywild.
When they
if I
what?
remember. Then when they trance, they are pulling into the Feywild slightly.
It's
correct?
like a spiritual thing. So like the
Yeah.
Fae is more like the Holy Spirit kind of take on it.
And that's probably why they have such a strong belief in it, because they tie it in with a daily thing for them. Every day they go through it.
It's a relationship. It's not a belief.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give away the culture and
that's fine.
other specific things that will be questioned later on. But yeah, that's the
I mean,
that would be something Rin would at least openly talk about if that was ever asked.
I learned me a thing or two.
I would like to put in another idea when it comes to elves, and this is kind of what I got from the whole looking at their past lives. The reason that elves aren't so prevalent in most societies and things like that, and they're always in their own little courts and everything, is there's only a set amount of elves. There only could be so many elves because they just get reincarnated.
Yes.
There can't be more and there can't be less. Well, there could probably be less, but
Yeah, if you massacred a bunch. Yeah.
The less also is if they stray. They
Yeah.
believe that, for instance, the Drow do not get reincarnated, since the Drow, supposedly, we're going for D&D Forgotten Realms, they no longer follow that god, they follow Loth.
no.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Follow
so-
Loth.
Praise be her name.
Another very kind queen of mine.
If you're into the queens, I see.
Or Lady
I
of
play
Darkness.
That's
play
good
a
news
lot
for
of
me, I think.
I play a lot of drow-like characters. I don't know. I like drows. They're fun. They're maniacal. They torture people.
They do indeed.
But yeah, it's always a good way of also putting a set point for elves. That's a good reason why they don't just massacre cities and stuff like that just so they can conquer it. They don't really have the need to conquer since they don't need more area. They always will have their area.
Now there is a lot to go further into elves because of their sub races are so drastically different. We're going to phase over to halflings because for time. So we're almost ready for our next break, but before we do that, let's do the player handbook portion, and then we'll break after that.
I will say right now, my player's handbook is just not loading through properly. It's just a blur to me.
You could go what I'm doing, which is going online to D&D Beyond, and you will find that the information is already
D&D
typed
Beyond,
out.
you say?
Yes. Now,
D&D Beyond
should be sponsoring me for this, but gosh darn it, they're not. So
Not yet.
you're welcome.
It sounds like we're sponsoring it from how we're
D&D
talking.
Beyond. We actually follow at D&D Beyond on our Twitter page.
Good for us.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Guys, follow our Twitter page at HotA RPG Official.
My computer hates me. It's not loading D&D Beyond for
Well,
some
we'll have you go last as you load that up.
I can have Sean take it.
I can take it too. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So halflings are small and practical. Why is that, Connor?
Well, hopefully this answers that. The diminutive halflings survive in a world full of larger creatures by avoiding notice or, barring that, avoiding offense. Standing at 3 feet tall, they appear relatively harmless and so have managed to survive for centuries in the shadow of empires and on the edges of wars and political strife. They are inclined to be stout, weighing between 40 and 50 pounds. Halfling's skin ranges from tan to pale with a ruddy cast, and their hair is usually brown or sandy brown and wavy. They have brown or hazel eyes. Halfling men often sport long sideburns, but beards are rare among them, and mustaches even more so. They like to wear simple, comfortable, and practical clothing, favoring bright colors. Halfling practicality extends beyond their clothing. They're concerned with basic needs and simple pleasures and have little use for ostentation. Even the wealthiest of halflings keep their treasures locked in a cellar rather than on display for all to see. They have a knack for finding the most straightforward solution to a problem and have little patience for dithering.
Okay.
Who is Finley?
Well, obviously.
I'm gonna touch it.
Touch it. Him and those blue balls.
He is a contradiction, I'll tell you that.
Kind and curious. Let's go with Dylan.
Halflings are affable and cheerful people. They cherish the bonds of family and friendship as well as the comforts of hearth and home, harboring few dreams of gold or glory. Even adventurers among them usually venture into the world for reasons of community, friendship, and wanderlust, or curiosity. They love discovering new things, even simple things, such as exotic food or an unfamiliar style of clothing. Halflings are easily moved to pity and hate to see any living thing suffer. They are generous, happily sharing what they have, even in lean times.
Blend into the crowd. AJ?
Me. All right. So, halflings are adept at fitting into a community of humans, dwarves, or elves, making themselves valuable and welcome. The combination of their inherent stealth and their unassuming nature helps halflings to avoid unwanted attention. Halflings work readily with others, and they are loyal to their friends, whether halfling or otherwise. They can display remarkable ferocity when their friends, families, or communities are threatened. The shortest one. On to William.
Is yours loaded or not? I can read it if it's...
No, it's not loaded. It's the problem is it's loaded. It's just very blurry, and I can't tell differences in letters.
Pastoral
I
pleasantries.
remember my first beer.
Most halflings live in small, peaceful communities with large farms and well-kept groves. They rarely build kingdoms of their own or even hold much land beyond their quiet shires. They typically don't recognize any sort of halfling nobility or royalty, instead looking to family elders to guide them. Families preserve their traditional ways despite the rise and fall of empires. Many halflings live among other races, where halflings' hard work and loyal outcome offer them abundant rewards and creature comforts. Some halfling communities travel as a way of life, driving wagons or guided boats from place to place and maintaining no permanent home. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so halflings, in contrast to humans, how do humans view halflings and halflings view humans?
First cousin, I'll say. Probably humans see them as cousins.
Okay.
Close enough to be related, but certainly not directly.
Okay.
Dylan's mind is just going, I love this feeling. The beard is so fluffy.
Like halflings and humans. I don't know. Like my experience with halflings is kind of the whole Tolkien experience. Like halflings are there and they know about them, but I feel like halflings keep to themselves. They have their own culture and
I think
rights.
halflings and hobbits are similar, but I wouldn't say they're the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just I don't know, maybe it's my own personal like thoughts on it. It's just halflings, I feel like they're their own little community and they don't worry about too much of the outside world. Humans definitely probably trade with them and interact with them, but I don't know, like yeah, like not even actually, yeah, I feel like they think they have a good thing going for them and they're not really too much concerned with the outside world until it starts impeding on their way of life.
I would say when it comes to halflings and humans, I've always felt like halflings been more just always out of the way when it comes to things. They've always kept to themselves and they always deal with their own problems most of the time, because doing that, you don't get too many problems. But when it comes to humans and halflings, I feel like the best part about the halflings is they are able to integrate pretty well with humans because they're really not that different. They're pretty much just shorter humans most of the time with a little bit more different views on life.
Yeah, I feel that halflings are kind of like the eternal optimists. They're very much glasses half full. And also what makes them different from humans is that as opposed to that ambition and drive that humans have, the halflings don't really feel it. They're easily contented.
Yeah.
And if they're surrounded by their family and their friends, they don't really need to know what's over the other next hill or mountain. And they just make do with what they have. And as it said, like even in lean times, they will share what they have with strangers and especially family. And so they are happy to settle down and just survive.
Yeah.
I think that halflings shouldn't be a commonly seen race. They should be rare unless your campaign takes place in
Halfling land,
a halfling area, or that you go through it and then you see them that they're not a rare race. They just don't go out. I think they're welcoming of people coming in, but I mean, like, why is Finley Shenanigan everyone's favorite halfling bard? I think he's everyone's favorite not because of how amazing he is, which he is, but it's just because there is no other halfling bards out there, you know, like nobody sees them because they don't go adventure.
Or maybe he can never truly fail.
Yeah, he's very lucky. He's
very lucky. Very lucky.
I absolutely
feel like
love his character.
We're gonna get in some dark shit with Finley Shenanigan.
Oh, we're gonna get
How
some
so?
kinky shit. That's what we're going into.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get some dark shit with him.
But his backstory is just like terrible.
I'd love to hear
Everybody
some
get their fair
theories.
share.
I know. I mean, I know he has two fathers.
Yeah.
Two daddies.
Yep.
Aside from that, I don't know. It's just like, why would he team up with Kurtz? That's
Why
my
not?
biggest. Because Kurtz is out of his fucking mind.
Well, it does imply
But
that
Finley
Finley would be around the
that.
battlefield for some reason, which is
Yeah.
very unusual for a halfling and even a bard. Like, why the hell are you around all these soldiers?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, on one hand, maybe he follows Kurtz because he feels like Kurtz is worthy of, you know, documenting or telling about in song.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe Kurtz is just that guy who's in the same place he is and in these dark and bloody places.
Well, I also think Finley probably thinks of you as a bigger target. And what better safe place to be than next to the bigger guy who's going to get hit?
And don't say that.
He's
Probably true.
He's a bard, which I think all bards are opportunist. And being around someone like Kurtz, it's good because it draws attention away from him when he doesn't want it. And when he does want it, he can make people feel better from not being around Kurtz.
Right.
I don't.
So it's a win-win situation either way.
Well,
I don't believe that. I think
And
that.
plus,
I
Kurtz
think
can
that
look like
Finley
a
admires
powerful
Kurtz, actually.
okay.
Just from the interactions that we've had in session 0. I think that Finley, he's a halfling. And we see
Sure.
we've been talking about halflings, how they're like very like caring and all those things, but I think Finley has been near Kurtz and just been like, wow, this guy doesn't give a fuck.
I think if Finley, from what I've seen of you guys' roleplay, is that he likes to be entertained and he likes to be around things happening. And Kurtz, say what you will, things happen around him.
Yeah, they do. Drama follows him.
I didn't kill anyone
Kurtz
in this
is
village we
drama.
just went into.
Kurtz is drama. Yes,
I've
you
never
killed
been
anybody
here. I
yet.
didn't kill anyone.
I thought that was hilarious. Everyone's like, "What's going on?" You're like, "I swear, guys, it wasn't me."
It wasn't me this time.
DM, was it? Did I kill somebody or kill a village?
I'm surprised he didn't try to drown that little girl. Like, so surprised.
When she went out,
Well, he didn't realize who she
read it on
was.
us.
And she was
He
doing.
realized, you saw his face when she showed up. He was like, "Oh, it's all gonna go bad."
No, I thought she needed help.
Swear,
And I went
guys,
to her, like,
it
that's the
wasn't me.
motherfucker. I'm like, God, I'm gonna have to cut your head off, aren't I? Shit, you're
It's
like
that
a
one
thief
right
or
there.
something. It's like, damn,
It's like-
I'm gonna have to kill this bitch.
Leave no witnesses. That little girl explains that perfectly.
sorry
Leave
to
no-
cut you off, Connor. You can continue. Sorry.
Oh, well, I mean, just like that was about it for as far as Finley. And yeah, Halfling Bard actually holds a close place to my heart. And having heard Kyle's intro of everyone's favorite Halfling Bard, I almost decided to be a Halfling Bard too, just to like,
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. If we
just to
had some
dig
bards.
it in a little bit. But yeah, I decided not to.
That
But,
would have been funny.
That would have been insane.
ah,
I'd have been
Two
the only
halfling
meat
bards.
shield in the entire fucking party.
It's,
yeah.
this
Still are.
Pretty much.
Self-proclaimed.
Oh shit, I am the only meat shield in the whole fucking party.
Well,
You are.
Urgra can be, well, I mean, meat shield, yeah, but Urgra can do melee too if she needs to.
Uh,
Yeah, you're the only one
she
in the
can't
front line.
But I have this
Hits.
fancy necklace that lets him heal myself now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might find the earrings and have a matching set. We're going to go on break. We will be back in 5 minutes. We'll wrap up talking about halflings, and then we'll just talk about our favorite races in general, and then we'll move on to news, and then we'll go to Q&A. So we're nearing the end, but we will be back in 5 minutes. See you guys soon.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah,
Just
I-
hang it. things that can be done.
Obviously.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. We
Hi.
are at the conclusion of talking about halflings, the race.
Already?
They're short.
Yeah.
Big problem.
They also got the shortest amount of time. God.
No,
Good shit.
well, I mean,
Are they?
we still will
Goblins are
talk
pretty
about
short.
them. I just mean we are past the initial
Yeah.
reading of it, and they are the last of the 4 races we're talking about. So that's what I meant of nearing the end. All right, so halflings are not hobbits, but they're similar.
I always thought they were. What are you guys basing that off of, them being different types of things?
No, I think
don't
it's
know.
the word.
I think
Yeah.
hobbits.
It's the
I
word.
think they're
It's literally the
hobbits.
word.
I thought they were hobbits.
I think the Lightfoot is more hobbit than the rest of them.
Yeah.
But that's just my thoughts.
Especially like in the Tolkien lore, where they're like, yeah, it's a hobbit. It can blend into the shadows and not be seen if it wants to. So
So,
I'm batshit insane. I'm J.R.R. Tolkien.
so we have Lightfoot and Stout. So
Mhm.
what?
And also ghostly, but that's not in the handbook.
Ghostwise, yeah. Something.
From my recollection, I believe it's during that time when the new D&D came out.
Just some new shit.
Lord of the Rings was still copyright held, and you couldn't call something a hobbit. So I think that's why
Yeah.
they called them halflings.
Because halfling is used in Lord of the Rings.
Is Ghostfoot some new shit? Because I'm not familiar with that.
It's a newer
Unearthed
one.
Arcana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Unearthed Arcana? It's now Mordenkainen and Tone of Foes, if I'm correct, and it's
Is it?
so OP, if I'm correct.
Which one?
It
The
sounds
Ghostwise
like-
halfling.
It
Oh,
honestly
that
sounds
one,
like
yes,
some
yes.
rogue bullshit.
It's I think it gains wisdom as
wisdom.
its point, and what is it? It gains advantage when in the shadows or something like that.
So
Yeah.
Shadow Step Monk. Mm-hmm.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
That's some bullshit.
It is, and they're crazy. That's
don't know.
pretty much
Reroll
if you
ones.
want to be
They
a rogue.
just reroll
That's what
all
you
the
are.
ones. I freaking hate Finley for that. There's like no nat ones for that guy.
I like halflings as NPCs. I would never play one. My favorite NPC was a halfling fighter. But I did have to give him like a bunch of rings of strength. So he had a +9 to his strength. And then he had 1 ring which made him a huge creature.
Wait, what? He wore more than one
So
ring.
he wore 10 rings.
You do know that's
Thanos.
actually not allowed in the game, right?
I absolutely understand that, but this was homebrew. So I
Homebrew.
didn't fuck.
Oh, okay.
Plus, he's facing an entire party, probably.
Yeah, he was an NPC.
So all right.
Yeah.
I thought this was like your
Um,
character, like you were playing him. Okay.
No. Halflings, I get them. I really do get them. I think they're great. Like all these classes that we've been talking about through the night, human, elf, dwarf, halfling, they're great for starter characters. Especially if you don't know how you want to play your character. I think that their emotions and like drives are very well defined within the player handbook and everything like that. Halflings, they're the perfect rogue, burglar. They're not assassins. They're good bards. They're good wizards, even. I think.
Good warlocks, too.
Good.
Yeah, not even war. I feel like they're good for like the more lighthearted characters, like the pure sort of like I'm gonna go on an adventure.
The childlike.
I could
Yeah.
imagine Finley being a warlock if it's to a fae.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's very
Or
innocent,
celestial. No,
that's how I view halflings.
I feel the worst a halfling could be is a trickster. Like,
So the halfling hobbit thing that I said earlier, technically they are exactly the same thing. It's just
they are.
just the
Copyright.
the
Nomenclature.
title.
The laird.
But I
The
guess
PC.
my thing
Peter.
is looking at how hobbits are in Lord of the Rings. To me, is my own personal preference for how halflings are portrayed as NPCs, or if I play one as a PC, they're going to be more gnomish.
Really?
Yeah,
Mm.
they're not gnomes, but they are more gnomish than the Lord of the Rings take. Just me personally. I almost view that.
Magical.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying,
Mm-hmm.
more like that. I kind of view that Tolkien's version of hobbits almost has a little flavor of dwarven little people.
Yeah.
Where I
I
think
can see that.
they're more of a gnomish. So like,
Yeah, can you do some word association with what gnomish means to you?
Intuitive.
Cunning.
the also with the finding joy in things and joking about stuff and lighthearted. When hobbits have a little bit, but they're not. They're like little dwarfs. Like they're like half dwarf people.
To me,
Instead
a
of
gnome is sprightly, but a halfling is jovial. You know,
right.
that's-
So like
Jolly.
I view because you have half elves, right, which is half human, half elf. I view halflings as like a half gnome, like half human, half gnome. Is kind of how I view them.
Who said that earlier?
Yeah.
Who said it earlier?
So that's just my own personal take for them. What do you guys think about the contrast of the two?
I see where you're going with that. I think that's a DM reference.
Yeah.
Because I think that going back to Tolkien, I mean, honestly, if we're gonna be like brutal here, like Tolkien defined the modern stereotypes for elves, humans, dwarves, orcs, goblins, all that shit. I think that in Peter Jackson's rendition of Lord of the Rings, which is the most popular sort of rendition of it, I think that he gives us 4 archetypes of halflings. He gives us Frodo, who is the sort of willful, steadfast. He believes in his purpose. He is intelligent, but he also is more charismatic than anything else.
Frodo's
We also
actually...
have Sam.
Okay, you finish.
No. Go ahead.
As I say, just from a storytelling point of view, I think Frodo is one of the worst main characters in a
He's
story.
absolutely.
I
like,
think
a
Lord of the
faulty
Rings
character.
is fantastic, and I'm okay with having flaws and faults in a character. I just think Frodo is boring as fuck. He's just not
That's why
compelling as a character
That's
at
why
all.
the other characters had more impact.
Exactly.
It's a global thing.
He was
Sam
not important at all.
Sam is more of the person who keeps him.
I think Sam's
his
character
route.
should have been Frodo's character. Like,
And a lot of people think that that's actually a very common discussion, is that Sam should have been the one to bear the ring, because Sam is strong. Sam is constitute. He's steadfast in his beliefs and his drive.
and their
Frodo-
relationship is important, so Frodo could support Sam.
Exactly.
But-
They're a symbiotic relationship that
Right.
he creates.
He should not have been the main character. That was retarded.
Absolutely. But it's an archetype of the halfling. I think that Frodo is this sort of halfling. He's charismatic, where Sam is not. He's intelligent, where Sam is not. He's wise, where Sam is not. Whereas Sam is strong, constitute, and he is charismatic as well. He's a likable character. Then you have Merry and Pippin.
Merry and Pippin are kind of more what I view.
They're
Hobbit.
Finley.
Yeah, they're more halfling than.
They are very halfling, but
Yeah.
if you kind of divide them, like Pippin goes to Gondor and becomes a squire. Merry is stuck in Rohan and becoming essentially a horseback rider as a halfling, where he has to have the strength to literally cleave off an orc's head just from the momentum of a horse. So Pippin, in his own right, is intelligent. He's also very wise, but he's also very strong. Merry, on the other hand, is a very charismatic, very dexterous. He hides a lot. But he's also very willful, because he does get the fucking
The
orc,
eye, whatever it's called.
the Eye of Sauron, and he does resist it. So these are all halfling archetypes, I believe, that Peter Jackson has created, and it's halfling is never one of these things. Halfling is never going to be a specialist. They're weak in their own right, but they're also very strong in their own separate rights. Like, Sam's not smart, but he's strong and he's constitute. Sam is very strong, but he's not intelligent. Frodo's not very strong, but he's very charismatic and he has a lot of will. He does actually carry the ring to Mordor, so on and so forth.
When I see halflings, I see them as the exception to the rule. and the most befuddling thing in nature. And I think that's why they give them in the D&D feat the bountiful luck, because if you think about it, they're small, so they're not very strong, not very big, not very bountiful. They give everything away, not the best for survival. They seem to be satisfied to not expand, and they're more likely to live in the reservation sort of thing. If you go by what you would consider the most standard Darwinistic kind of race, they should have died out. They should have been gone. And yet, for some reason, they're still alive to this day. They're quite lucky. There is certainly something about them that is a bit more beyond than just the standard, what you would consider, as you had said, Dylan, there's more than just what they seem to be. There's a bit more of some kind of...
I mean, there's definitely more than that.
Yeah, there's something behind them. But that's the thing. It's something you can't put your finger on. And that's what makes them unique, I think, is they have this trait that no one can say what it is exactly. It's just... It's one of those things where it's someone says je ne sais quoi, or you say things like that. It's something you can't name.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm just trying to find a similarity between the four that makes a hobbit or a halfling.
I mean, if you go by the Lord of the Rings thing, just the naivety of all of them having lived in this one small place and then suddenly being thrust out into world-changing consequences.
I think that's that's a common thing about the hobbits, which I feel like goes for all of them, is that they're very stuck in a certain setting, and they very, very rarely leave that, which I think that's why they have this kind and childish reasoning to everything, is because that's all they know.
I think that's the biggest problem with halflings, is they're not adventurers, and this isn't a game that focuses on adventuring characters, and that's why it's so forced to have a halfling adventurer. They don't belong in this. They have to have a reason to... I mean, that call to action that any character needs to have for a story to be focused on. And if it's an adventuring, cooperative game, they don't fit that mold.
You need someone to push them.
But why would they even leave? They don't. I mean, you have to have a reason too. I think that's the hardest thing with halflings, and most people just kind of ignore it. No, halflings are just another race that adventures. I don't see them as an adventuring race.
I think that plays in the backstory, though. I think that I think you're right. Halflings need a stronger reason to leave their community than most other races. But once they have that, I also think that they need something or someone that's going to push them to continue that rather than returning home.
Yeah.
I think they have a nature a bit about them, this thing that they try to fight against. But for the most part, the one thing that they have is once someone shows them that there's another world out there, their curiosity probably becomes a bit more intrigued and enlightened to a degree where they want to continue going back out there. If you go by the typical Lord of the Rings standard, if you have Bilbo Baggins when he was resistant to the nth degree, but then when he came back to Hobbiton, he just said, I got bored of living here. I just wanted to see mountains again. It's there's a tendency where you feel complacent where you are, and that's, I think they obviously exude a great sense of paradise in their own little world, and it makes them so they don't really want to leave, and that's probably why they're so generous, and their nature kind of exhibits that, because when they find their little hole, their little nook in the middle of the city or in the middle of a pasture somewhere, they make it their paradise. And so why would you want to leave paradise? Until they do for the first time, and then they realize there's a bigger world out there, realizing that we thought we were normal size, but then we saw a human and we realized we're small.
Right. If gnomes weren't in D&D, I could see myself playing a halfling, but because there are gnomes, I'll probably honestly never play a halfling. Just my own personal preference. I will always take gnome over halfling, and it's not even because of stat reasons. It's just purely for racial.
Honestly, reasons. Gnomes are extinct in every single campaign I've ever run because I just don't see them as having a point.
Don't go to a gnome nation in my campaigns. You'll die. You'll die a painful death of disintegration rays.
Yeah.
Because they don't like people. Like, gnomes are assholes, but they're good with magic.
I always saw Tuck as a gnome until he's a human, isn't he?
Puck?
Not Puck.
Oh, Puck.
Puck?
Puck.
No, he's a gnome.
He's a gnome. Yeah.
He's
Like
the
I've always seen gnomes as like the sort of steampunk scientists of D&D, whereas halflings are sort of the good old boys.
The good old boys. The good boy.
The boring old
Yeah.
boys.
Not even that. They're just like, yeah, I'm gonna live my life on this farm, and I'm never gonna leave it. I'm gonna give this farm to my son, and he's gonna give that farm to his son.
Or inbred.
I mean, it's just
little
like,
bread there, but
like, but gnomes, I always felt like they're scientific and inquisitive and everything like that. I think that's the divide between halflings and gnomes. Is halflings are happy with their station; they don't question it. Gnomes are like, yeah, but what if I put this mercury into this ammonia? What would happen?
Oh,
Yeah.
be right back. I need to use the bathroom.
Yep.
poor Puck.
Could have done that on the fucking break.
Yeah.
I didn't need to.
Didn't need to. Then do it. Just do it. I would like to come back to the ghost gnome. I mean, not the ghost gnome. The ghost halfling real
Ghost
fast.
gnome.
I was wrong.
Ghost
It's not.
gnomes.
It's ghost gnomes. Beware. But
Oh god.
it's actually not a shadow sneak. It's actually a silent speech. They get free telepathy.
That's bullshit.
It is. They get free telepathy with 30 feet, and they can telepathically speak with any creature that knows the same language as them.
Wow.
That's
That's broken.
That's broken.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Especially if you're
You
a good
can-
player.
You can that could break a game, especially if you're a rogue.
If Finley
Like-
had that, he should be like, "Hey, stab this motherfucker." Like, okay.
Sick of them. Sick of
Sneak attack. Like, we're talking to
Is
the
it-
king. We're talking to the king. I'm like kneeling in front of him. He's like, "Hey, put your axe in this dude's head." Like, all right. Why
Would
not?
Finley become your conscious? Like, would you think like Finley's
I-
voice in your head would be
I
like
think
your
Curse
voice?
would think it was one of his ghost friends. He'd be like, "Okay, sounds like a good plan."
Would it be strange that he sounds exactly like Finley? Like, sick him.
No.
Kill.
Or it's just having a sixth sense moment. Finley's naturally dead.
Y'all forget Kurt's out of his goddamn mind.
He is.
Like he
That-
he
okay,
tortured
Kyle.
a guy to death.
You know what to do now. Become a ghost halfling and just take control of Kurtz without using any magic.
If it makes sense, Kurt's just gonna be like, "Okay, yeah."
It's like he insights check you. Like, you don't trust this guy. This guy's giving me a bad feeling. You should take him out.
Oh god.
Hey, user 5354, are you still in the chat? Let us know if you are.
I think he is. I was just having a conversation.
Is
with him.
anybody else here?
That's what I was gonna. I don't know if anybody else is.
I
watching.
think.
Oh, he's here. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm here.
Um,
Is anybody else in the chat?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, what do you want to know? 5354. First of all, do you have another name you go by besides the generic one like user? That's my question for you. But then,
Are you a bot?
Are you a bot?
He's talking too much to be a bot.
What
you
questions
never
do you
know.
have about
We're
us? About the channel? Is there anything you want us to talk about, or
Hirota.
Akira
Good anime.
or Solemn? Oh, yeah.
Good
You
lab.
messaged me on Roll20.
Oh my gosh, this is one of my players in my homebrew
that's
game.
yeah. He knows you.
Gotta love just.
Yeah, we all have 13 nomenclatures, so it's hard
Gotta
to know
love
who's here.
to.
Okay. What do you want to know about us, or want us to talk about? We usually have a lot more people in the chat. Today's kind of.
Is it hi or is it he?
Hi.
Yeah, Fallout 76 released tonight.
Wait, what? For beta?
The beta released tonight. Yeah, for Xbox One.
Whoop! Just throw the wand over the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of our segments, we usually do a viewer Q&A. But this is the first one we've had where we don't have anybody viewing. So,
It's gonna break.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, it's okay, but it's just
We got 1,300 views and 90 followers. So
Really? I know we have 90 followers, but do we really have that many views? Wow. It says we have
a cumulative
89.
Yeah.
On the website, right?
No, on the Twitch stream.
On the Twitch.
On the Twitch stream, it says we have 89 followers on the Twitch stream.
No, we have 90 followers and 1,304 views.
It says right there.
All right. So something I was thinking about.
Oh, chat's going on.
While you were all talking, do you think economy within a D&D world would be much different than a traditional one, i.e. humans wouldn't do much metalworking when dwarves are just way better at it? It makes more economical sense to do something you're better at. Personally, yeah, I think humans would be much more farmers and like producers of like wheat, crops, and things like that because they live above ground. Dwarves are subterraneans. I think their only like crop would be like mushrooms and funguses and stuff like that, or fish from subterranean lakes and stuff like that. Elves, artisans, maybe carpenters. That's just me. That's how I like break up my worlds. So
for the economy, I would say that most D&D worlds probably are much more of a bartering system. Yeah. I know like a lot of it is about gold and silver and all that stuff, but the fact is that like, you generally have a bunch of different races, generally meaning different nations. So like having a common currency among all these races is just absurd. And so even using money, it's going to be a lot about just bartering.
Mm-hmm. I would argue that because I think gold, if like everyone agrees that gold has value, we'd get like people would agree that a certain weight of gold. I don't know why my fucking camera is so low now.
Yeah, you'd like disappear.
Yeah, a certain weight of gold would be worth a certain amount. That's capitalism, and capitalism, works.
Economy is very difficult to do in a fantasy setting because in all technical forms, the currency that people use in a fantasy setting would never... It would work, but it's so simple that it wouldn't work in a sense because kingdoms don't have enough money, so their gold or their silver is going to be less and stuff like that. You can tell what a cheaper country or cheaper kingdom's like because of their currency, which you don't really get in D&D. You just get, oh, it's this much coinage.
The coinage, in my opinion, is purely so players can buy shit they want. It does not fit in the economical structure of the D&D universe, if I'm completely honest. It does not make sense in the values of things and the rarity of gold. It actually is not balanced. If you look at how much just basic food costs and drink, and then adventuring gear, like the escalation of the cost,
it's nothing to players.
It's not financially feasible to be an adventurer from an economic standpoint, going off of the player handbook.
It's like what a meal costs like 2 copper, but a sword is like 300
50.
Gold.
It's about
it's
no matter what it is, it's around 50.
Greatsword is 50. And it's the most expensive one.
Basic adventuring gear is completely out of the realm for anyone to ever.
Yep.
And it's like basic shit too. That's
and that's starting equipment. It's just not economically feasible to be an adventurer, and the amount of money you would have to charge for level 1 missions just to pay back your gear. It's not.
It's very reminiscent if you wanted to be like a freelance mercenary, honestly. Because like if we put it into US dollars, like ammo, weapons, armor, and everything like that, you'd be back like $20,000.
About 30.
Depending on what you want to do.
Mattering on how much protection you get and what type of weaponry you want and ammunition and everything, the cost would be around 30 and more.
20, 30, something like that. And then like, you can't just go out and do stuff. You have to find people to give you a job. And then you have to find people who are willing to pay you for that job and stuff like that. And there's repercussions and blah, 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 blah. Like, the thing about D&D is, like, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm going to go kill these goblins. And people are like, oh, shit, you can go kill those goblins. We don't give a fuck.
Someone knows that my worlds are very much about repercussions.
I mean,
Goblins
same.
are terrifying.
Goblins are just like fungal people.
With the cost of adventuring stuff, gear, and magic being free. Now, components to do certain spells do cost money, but I think that's just forced to make it fit into the economy. I think that if anybody can learn magic, it's different if it's like you can't if you're not a particular thing. But if anybody can learn magic, to me, why would you go any other
way?
Why would you do
any other
else?
way ever?
Why would you be an Eldritch Knight?
I mean,
Why would you even be a fighter if you can just firebolt someone's
exactly?
face off?
Because you could fight and throw fireballs if you are physically strong. You know what I mean? Like, you could do both. It just putting an economy, I think it's purely just so people can buy shit. I mean, I've ran the downtime economy system for investing and stuff with my players throughout the week, and then that gold also carried into what they could buy in the game. They amassed, so I mean, because it's a long-term campaign over 6 months, they were fucking Bill Gates. You know, like, they had so
Bill
much
Gates.
gold they could buy anything, and it broke the fucking game when I put downtime stuff in there. Just trying to have an economy for them to, because adventurer who goes and makes, 50 gold pieces from a quest, which is not unrealistic in D&D.
Yeah,
If he chooses to invest that,
He said, I mean, it's a trade-off, right? A professor doesn't cage fight because you have to invest your time in different areas. Yeah, but I mean, also, soldier isn't a professor, and they get paid arguably more than that because they get paid quick, fast, and in a hurry. It's like, hey, go kill these motherfuckers. Like, yeah, I killed these motherfuckers. Here's your gold. It's dangerous, and the danger sort of balances out the time. That's what adventurers do. They're like, we're willing to go into this haunted cavern because you're not, but you're going to pay us way more gold than we can make being a miller or a miner or anything like that at the risk of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's risk versus reward.
But because they make a lot of money, they have to, the book has to make the higher level, more powerful gear be ultra expensive because you're making a lot of money. But the economy couldn't support that expensive of gear.
It's like the jump between chainmail and plate mail.
Oh,
Like
man.
chainmail's 300 gold, plate mail's 1,500.
How could anyone ever afford that?
You would have to be part of a noble family to be able to get that.
And
Yeah.
even just getting inherited even.
I
Yeah,
miss
I
on
would-
the topic of economics. I can talk to you about economics. That's my major.
It's just it's risk versus reward, and that's what I think. I think Sean and his devs is in a really good way of balancing that. In HotA is the adventurers who are going after the horsemen are minor lords, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like, we're given that right, we're given that privilege and things like that because it's like, hey, no one else is willing to go fight these monstrosities. You're probably all gonna die.
Like, you guys don't have to worry about paying to stay in an inn because
That's nice.
yeah, you're the adventurers who are trying to save the world. You need a sword. Does anybody got what he need? All right, you give it to him, and we'll compensate you later. Like that.
Yeah,
kind
and
of a
if
feel
if
to
you,
where
if you're a good guy, you'll be like, yeah, here's some gold for your troubles. Thank you, sir. But otherwise, you'd be like, yo, fuck it, give me that. I'm gonna go kill this demon, and then you die, and you're like, oh well, he fucking died. We're all gonna die now.
I mean, but we're also in an apocalyptic campaign where you guys are trying to save the world. That's a lot different than a normal campaign where adventure is just doing shit so they can get fame, fortune, and power. So it is a lot different, but us doing that was able to get through economic failure of D&D for 5th edition.
I want an elephant. I could buy an elephant right now. Got
Can you
137
find
gold.
an
Can
elephant?
you find one?
Can you find an
Oh.
elephant?
Maybe. I'm in Kandoria.
Do
I'm
you
in the
know what
capital.
an elephant is?
Probably. I've been around.
But I mean,
Hmm.
magic
What's this
exists
elephant?
in this world though too, so you could just. We can't find one. Well, let's make an elephant. Fuck.
Yeah, I'll go
magic.
to Rin like, hey, Rin, give me a fucking elephant.
I go, sure. Don't resist the saving throw.
Turns
Give me,
into
give me
an elephant.
with like adamantine tusks and a flail trunk.
Just turn Finley into a T-Rex. He
Or
would
just
love
those
that.
elephants from Lord of the Rings.
I do want an elephant, by the way. That's gonna be my
A
mount.
Lord of the Ring elephant? That would be.
Oh,
Well,
I need to remove that.
they're Ella. Fuck, they have a special name.
I think they're called
This-
elephants.
No,
it,
they're not.
it wasn't that
It's-
different.
It's like yeah, it's like slightly askew. Anyway, yeah.
It's elephants or something. It's something. Sam says it once.
Elephant's
Elephants.
something else entirely.
Elephants.
Nice.
Elephants.
Remove that.
Isn't it font?
bot.
Isn't it
Elephants.
elephant?
Elephants. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when they're seeing in their Chinese, which is racist, it's like, oh, it's the mercenaries. They're elephants, Master
They were in
Frodo.
Chinese.
They were fucking Chinese. They
The
had goddamn
eyes were
samurai-
complete.
They had samurai fucking armor on.
The armor, yes. The actors, no.
No, absolutely, they were American, but come on.
I mean, I don't know. They could be African.
I got more Middle Eastern myself.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Whatever. Anyway, I want
Actually,
an elephant.
I have a question now. What would you guys think be the most expensive class to, I guess, start into or to get into? I would say wizard.
it's always wizard. What are you talking about?
It's always
Yeah.
wizard. That's my thought because
Fighters
not only
start
the
off with
education-
so much money because we're just mercenaries essentially.
yeah, you just kill people. You don't
Yeah.
even need that. You just need a pen to kill somebody.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
just
all
like
you need.
I think before we even sold all the like gear and shit that we've been getting, like I think I had like 30 gold.
Yeah, that's a lot of gold.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll buy some fucking caltrops. Eat a dick,
Mhm.
whatever. And now I think now I have 157 after all the stuff we've sold, like all the gear we've like taken off bodies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like I'm rich as shit for a mercenary.
Yeah. 30 gold can get you pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
30 gold can get you pretty far when it
Especially if you
comes to
look
basic
at
equipment.
like a days worth of rations to eat
Yeah.
comfortably.
5 silver.
It's 2 copper.
It's
for a
cheap
meal.
as fuck. If you look
It's
at
5
if
silver.
you went to McDonald's and got a meal, it's
No, not
$9
even. It's not even silver. Yeah, it's if you look
Oh.
at if you go to a poor tavern, it's like
if
2
you go to
copper
a poor
for-
tavern, but like that's
We're
for food, but for a ration, which is
Well-
usually jerky or something of that sort, which is preserved food, which is usually 2 silver.
here's a question,
Five.
Dylan, what's the price of like the average hamburger where you're at from a restaurant?
Where I am, like a McDouble.
No,
It's like
not a fast food chain, like a mom and pop kind of place.
Ooh.
Like we're talking about like no worrying about franchising because in
Yeah.
D&D there's not really any franchise, but for your local area, if you went to like a mom and pop burger joint, what would they typically charge?
$12 on up for a burger and fries and a pickle.
For like a whole meal,
Sure.
$8.
No way.
But that's like a burger this big.
That's gotta be big.
It's
More than that.
Okay, in California, you're thinking more of like a $14 for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it'd be
No,
more
it
than that.
definitely would determine on like if I'm in the capital, stuff's gonna cost more.
Right, yeah, exactly.
If I'm out in
I
the
think-
boonies, yeah.
I think when the D&D gives you an example, they're trying to give you the most, like, down really bad. This is like
Yeah.
watered down leek soup at that point. It's a food kitchen line kind of thing.
Mm.
Like to feed the masses, you could feed them at best 2 copper a day. Similar with us, it's like you could technically feed them at like $5 a day kind of thing.
I don't know, man. I'd argue against California. California's bullshit. Like I've been out in like the mountains here. I mean, I'm in Montana, so it's not really standard. But I've been out in like I've driven on a dirt road for like 2 hours, come to a bar, and they've like fed me for like $5 with like homemade meals and stuff like that. So it's I see where the DM's guide is coming from. Where it's like a standard, But it honestly, like, even if you take it from just an international standpoint, it doesn't take that much to stay alive.
No, beans and rice. You can live off
Yeah.
beans and rice, and both of those foods are so inexpensive to grow and can grow in massive different
Regions.
Yeah, if you're just trying to stay alive, you can live off almost nothing.
Bark.
Yeah,
Bark.
and we have magic in D&D too. Like, you're a fucking wizard, you can be like, oh hey, here's a fucking whole roast chicken.
Yeah, if you can cast like good berries.
That's more of a cleric's domain.
World hunger
than
is
mine,
solved with
personally.
good berries. That's what they're called, right? Good berries.
Good berries,
Good
yeah.
berries.
Berry.
World,
They're like,
You
World hunger
spread.
kill
gone.
people with good berries.
I killed a bear and fed us for like 3 days.
It
I'm
should be
still feed-
more. That's a.
I'm still
Okay, so-
still feeding us off that same goddamn bear we killed.
You should not be able to eat that because bear. It's
You
like
can't
that
cure
would
it,
not be
yeah.
easy to
I
make.
smoked it.
Like eat. You smoked it.
Over how many
I did.
days?
Yeah. Right.
How long did you marinate it? How long did you smoke it for? Because I need like a week to smoke that for
Oh,
it
no,
to be
we
tender
smoked
enough.
it. We talked about it.
It's magic, man. Magic smoking.
Yeah.
It's magic smoking.
Prestidigitate some fucking
Yeah.
Decay.
Magic,
That's basically
yeah.
what it is. We're decaying. We're breaking down the bonds. son.
We're
I mean,
breaking down
that's
the.
the thing, though. It's not like modern society. Like, I can just in D&D, I can just go off like, yeah, I'm gonna go hunt a fucking wombat. Kill the wombat and I eat it. Like, that's my
Yeah.
food for like 3 days.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
the same rules as modern society.
There's only one certain wizard spell that will allow you to create food, and it's very costly to do it.
Yeah, then good
Oh,
berries or something like that. It's
You're
just
that's not a
like,
wizard spell though.
Oh, no, it's a
It's-
wizard spell.
Good
You're a
berries is not
wizard
wizard.
spell?
There's a
There's
wizard
a
spell that
level-
does it.
There's
No,
a level
not for
5 spell
Goodberry.
that does it.
No,
Create
I'm
For
the
saying-
berry.
no, for
water.
food. For food. Yeah, there's only one thing they can do to make food.
I'm just saying that
Hmm.
in a rural or medieval setting, that's not your first concern, because you're more concerned of like, what in the fuck can I eat, rather than is this like a fancy meal.
You can
Like,
eat
I
the
could
half.
go out, I could go out into the woods right now and spend a couple hours and kill a dog or some shit like that and eat it for like 2 or 3 days. Like,
Eat the. Eat
it
the bandit clan.
doesn't. Eat the bandit clan. Become a cannibal. It doesn't matter. It's D&D. It's like a completely new society. That's the problem.
Is
like
Kurt's a cannibal?
survival-
Who knows?
We don't talk about that. All right.
We don't talk about that.
So I'll tell you guys a story of since we have our viewers with my own brew. So this is how they destroyed the economy of my game. So I gave them this wonderful little loot drop called the Manual of Gainful Exercise, which I think great. It's a use once and you're done, and one person gets a +2 to their strength after 48 hours of reading over 1 week or whatever. What I didn't realize is that they can sell it, and it's a very rare magical item, even when it's been used. And if you sell it to someone like, say, an elf or a longer-lived race, they'll probably still give you several thousand gold. And so I had my magic shop all set up, and so they bought like the stuff they could afford, and then they came back and sold the book, and then they basically bought out the entire shop.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's
That's
like
like
you
a-
could go. It's like I could go into like an old mill in real
I-
life and
I can
find.
tell you how you could have avoided that too.
You definitely could have avoided, but that's the thing about D&D. It's
I
like
didn't make anything too
the
broken.
adventurers,
or
the
available.
adventurers go into risky situations and find these incredible things, artifacts or magical items that don't exist in common economy or real life. And it's like, okay, I don't have a fucking use for this. This tea kettle summons ghosts. Cool. Someone wants it. Throw that shit on eBay and get like $35,000 for
But
it.
does somebody want it though? I mean, that's a really easy
Probably,
way
I'd
of
want it.
telling
That
your
would be
players
really
no.
cool
Is
to
like,
have.
who's gonna buy an ever-smoking bottle that the book says is worth this much gold? But something,
Exactly.
something's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. You can just
Yeah.
justify that. Well, nobody's willing to pay that, or nobody who wants it has that money. So
But yeah, you could definitely
enjoy the
justify that.
item. It's worth
Same
nothing.
time,
Well, if
Money's
you wanted
only
to
valuable
actually-
if
probably
people believe in
want
it.
that.
if you want a realism thing approach there, Connor, when a businessman is going to buy a book that can't be used for a century, they're more likely going to make you an investment deal where they'll say, we'll give you a down payment of this much.
It was.
Every so
It was
many
store credit. Yeah.
Yeah. Store, well, no store credit. Just literally say over so many years, I'll give you, the value as it starts to depreciate to the point of it being that. So at that point, the item becomes a bank, and he just now will continually give them little bits, either to come out maybe every year they get something, because it takes a century for it to recharge, and not many people can live a century.
Yeah,
so at that point, it's like no one would want to buy it if they're a human, typically, because they're not going to live long enough to see the fortunes. But if they're an elf, they might be like, sure, I'm not going to have all the fortunes with me now, and I'm not going to invest it in a book that could easily be stolen, and I would have lost investment. It'd be smarter for me to give you trickles here and there, and I'm basically paying you for the privilege of keeping the book. And if you wish to put it back, you can pay me back the amount that I've already dished out to you.
Yeah, like if Kurt spends something like, hey, I'll give you 100 gold, you like sold, because he's 50. He's not gonna live that long. He's like, yeah, 50 gold, fuck it. I'm not gonna live 100 years. Give me the money. Like, but if Kurtzel's an elf, he's like, I'm gonna live for like another millennia. Like, no, fuck you. Give me like 6 platinum.
6 platinum.
That would be 60 gold, so we went from 50 to 60, but all right.
Metric is confusing for him.
No, a platinum's 100 gold, isn't it?
10.
No, it matters how you do money in your system. There's some systems that do 100 coins transfer to 1 coin, and there's some things.
Okay, yeah. So in my shit, I do a platinum's 100.
100.
So
okay.
Okay.
That works out perfectly. That saves weight so much.
Yeah, that's
That
how
would
I
save
do.
a lot of weight. Oh my god, though, finding a platinum piece is like.
Yeah.
That's the best way to control your adventures. Making a shit ton of money is at the end of a big quest. You just have a chest full of copper. You're not gonna want to grab any of it. Like fuck that. I'm not gonna carry any gear.
Over all the time. I'm like, yeah, there's 12,000 copper in this chest.
Yeah. It
And
could be a
like,
million.
fuck that.
a million copper. All right, I grab, 100.
Yeah, here's your 1 gold piece when you transfer it over to the bank. Like, fuck you.
Would you want to get paid in 1,000,000 pennies, though?
That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't.
If I was
grab
given
it.
the chance to be given 1,000,000 pennies, I will take those 1,000,000 pennies right here and now.
But would you be ever to transfer it into actual cash, though?
But it's
Yeah,
not.
it's a bank. The bank works.
The bank works.
I mean,
Would you be
will kill you.
willing to do that if you have to travel 3 days to the bank and fight like an
carry
entire goblin
all
clan
of those
on the way?
pennies.
This is why you have the wizard who has the tensor floating disc for
Yeah, like
That's what
that's
That's not
the
going to
thing.
hold enough
It's like-
weight.
But how
That's
much?
way too much.
How much does the tensor's floating disc cost?
Cost?
you. Well, I guess it's
It
the
doesn't
educational wizard and like you
It
were
doesn't
referring to
really
like how
cost
much it took them.
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
no cost to create it, but yeah.
We have gotten way off track.
it's
Yeah,
okay.
we never even got to know our top 5
We're
favorite races.
talking
That's
about
okay.
Top 5.
Top 5.
top 5 races?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll
Oh,
start it
Top
off.
5? Okay.
No, you pick one. I think it's we each pick
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'll
Yeah.
make more sense.
Top 5. I will start off.
Go ahead.
The Genasi, or Ganassi,
Oh.
or...
horribly way to pronounce race. Yes.
Okay, Satan.
I was thinking about going elf, but there's so many elves to choose from, so I went for the next closest one that's pretty cool to play, and they're just awesome. They're elemental people.
They're aliens.
They are, but it's so cool. It was either that or the GIF Yankees.
Well, there's
No,
2 different
you're-
origins for the Ganassi.
You're one of those players. Got it.
It's
AJ?
either that or being a drow that tortures the players.
But then you're back to elf.
Elf.
Was that what you, Dylan?
No, I'm not elf.
Human.
I was asking you.
Oh no,
Human's
I
actually
didn't-
not my favorite race.
So wait, Connor's favorite race was what?
I haven't said yet.
Oh, I thought you literally
I
just
don't know.
coined
I
it.
was, no.
My favorite is Warforged.
No,
I
you're
think,
that guy.
I think
just
they
like
are
The
so
new
cool.
Warforge or the old Warforge?
Just like Spaz, you're one of them.
You're one of them. You say that, but I
Actually,
never get to play
There's a
characters.
homebrew version of Warforges that are my favorite, actually. But
Mm.
I think it's so cool. Like
I briefly
being a
considered doing.
construct is great.
I'll briefly consider doing tribal, half warforged, half human.
Oh, really?
But I had no idea how.
You're a fucking cyborg.
You're a cyborg. I had no idea.
we
That's
could've-
what you are.
We could have made it work, man.
Nah, it's all right.
That would have been nuts. I would have killed you on the spot.
Demon.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I think it's so cool of tying like a future sci-fi thing into fantasy. You know, like AI. Like that's cool shit. I mean, the only natural transition for sci-fi into fantasy is steampunk.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's the only clean transition, but yet there's Warforged who are fucking AI
No.
Well,
robots.
They're
They're fucking
Warforges.
robots.
No, they are not.
No, they're not.
Warforges are most of the
Artificial
time they are constructs that have gained sentience through a soul being placed in them somehow.
That
Kinda like a
consciousness. Yeah, that's soul
It's-
equals
That's not
consciousness.
that's not artificial.
Yeah, it's
That's
actually
a whole different
It came
argument
from a
for another
creature.
time.
Yeah, if you want the artificial intelligence, that's your golems. Golems
Yeah,
are the
artificial.
robots of the fantasy world.
Artificial has to be created. Warforges are not created. They are
Well, they are created.
They are
anomalies.
created.
They're
They're
implanted.
they're anomalies most of the time.
No,
At
they-
least that's how they are in
they
Eber-
build them.
in Eberron.
They gain
they're
sentience,
anomalies.
and they are people. They are not just an automaton that's expendable. They have consciousness. They have
This is
wills,
an argument
they
for
have
off stream that we need to
souls.
This
record.
is
And we all need to be drinking.
this
I
is
can't
war.
wait for the racial topic for Warforged to come up, because they are people. They have souls.
Yeah, but
Honestly,
but
after
you also
playing
put
Detroit Become
changelings
Human,
and shifters in the same group.
they're sentient living beings that are born. It's like, oh, I aborted this thing. It's not a human anymore. It's still a human. It's just dead. All right, Connor, what was your favorite race?
I'm between tieflings and halflings.
Really?
Hmm
Why
I
tiefling?
like just the feel of freedom of halflings. I know, like, the whole, like, wanting to stay home and all that stuff, but the way I got around every time I played a halfling is they've always been a caster, and their community had no magic, and in fact, like, had banned magic, and so they were, like, literally kicked out of their home. And that was my call to adventure. And tieflings, I don't know, they're just so freaking cool. There's just, like, you can make them kind of however you want, whether all the way from skin color to, like, what type of horns you have to the eye color to, like, if you have hooves or not. If you, like, it's just kind of the mix and match of whatever the hell you want them to be. And also, I just love charisma characters because I love to roleplay and social. And all
Yeah,
that
that
stuff.
is charisma is really cool for roleplay. But I don't think people type into the infernal portion of tieflings enough, though. They're just humans with horns and tails, and they're
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
mean,
a
backstory.
little scary. But I mean, like,
Tieflings are my favorite race.
really?
Absolutely. Just because of the dichotomy. Kind of like humans, only it's like, hey, you can give into that infernal bloodline, or you can try to resist it and be a noble person. And I think that's really cool to see that evolve throughout the character's development, because it could go either way, no matter what class you are. It's like, yeah, I'm ruthless, I'm brutal, I'm Kurtz, or I'm noble, I'm, I give my enemies mercy and stuff like that. I want to be something more than what people view me as, which is just like a demon or something like
Yeah,
that.
they come
I
from
love
hell. I mean, you can't escape the fact that they come from hell.
Mm-hmm. But it's whether or not they want to resist that.
Tieflings don't come from hell.
Yeah, they
Tieflings
do.
are humanoids that made a deal with devils, and they
Or
were
they're
I mean, where
or
they
they're-
come from originally.
They're
I
the
mean, they come
offspring
from-
of humans and demons.
That's an interesting story that I've never actually had a DM interact with. Was, I guess, the backstory of how they met or anything like that, or how it went.
I mean, in my campaigns, tieflings are the offspring of when a demon has raped or seduced a human.
Hmm.
I mean, that might be
pretty
just
close.
me.
It's close to how it's a bloodline thing, and they come
Yeah.
from hell. They're demon human hybrids.
Is it strange that they can't be succubus, can't create tieflings?
Well, that's the
Succubus
thing.
can.
It's its own
That's the thing.
No,
its
they
own
can't.
category of tiefling. Actually, it's not even tiefling.
It's a Cambion.
A Cambion.
Yeah,
It's
but
its
I mean,
own
there's
different
still. I mean, if you want to get into the
It's a tiefling,
semantics of it,
technically.
yeah, it's a fucking
Yeah.
tiefling with a higher charisma score and charm.
It's way harder than a regular
No,
tiefling.
it has charisma armor.
I mean, whatever, but it's still like the
Armor.
same aesthetic as a tiefling.
Partial human,
saying.
partial demon. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
devil technically.
yeah.
'Cause
I mean,
devils
no,
it's
are
just that
different.
whole.
Devils and
Succubus
demons
is
are
just a
different, yeah.
fiend.
It's that whole
Succubus are
aesthetic.
just a fiend.
Like my favorite NPC I've ever made is this tiefling called Hope, who's ancestor guardian barbarian for a half
Wow.
orc, who's one of his like distant ancestors. So his ancestor guardian is all these orcs and half orcs, but he's a tiefling, and he's a barbarian, and he's like 15. It's my favorite thing ever.
Is he a half orc tiefling?
He's a tiefling.
He's a
Because
tiefling,
in
but is his parents?
in my thought, his parents were both tieflings.
Mm-hmm.
But in my sort of thoughts about his background and race, eventually somewhere along the line, there were orcs and half orcs and so on and so forth. Because for me, I feel like tiefling would be like the dominant gene. If you have two tieflings together, it's like you have two redheads, they're going to have a redhead. Like they are both recessive genes,
There you
but if
go.
they come together.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know genetics were so exact like that in D&D.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, yeah. So both his parents were tieflings, but his ancestors were half orcs and orcs. So he's like, yeah, I'm a fucking barbarian. I'm gonna smash your fucking face in with his maul. And yeah, I love him. He was originally one of my characters for HotA. He was one of the first guys I thought about before I decided on Kurtz. But yeah, I love tieflings. Tieflings are great. Aside from that, it's Goliaths, but that's just because they're fun.
Goliaths are in my top 3.
Goliaths and Drow.
Hmm.
Like, just because Goliaths are just like, I'm this tribal motherfucker from the mountains. I killed a bear with my teeth when I was 3. Like shit like
I am
that.
Sparta.
Yeah. It's like the opening to 300, but it's just
Pretty
a fucking
much.
Goliath. He's like got a wooden spear. He's just like, the wolf saw him and blah, blah, blah. So he lured him. And I'm like, all right. All right, Kurtz.
All right, AJ, you're last.
I mean, for me, ever since Sean put it in my head, I am now currently loving the idea of making more race combos.
Mm.
I love the concept of like, what happens if a Tabaxi and a Goliath have a baby? You know,
Boulder.
what does that turn into at that point? You know,
What
Mhm.
type
They're
of
very-
tabaxi is
Right,
my question.
yeah. I mean,
Is it a tiger? Is it a lion? Is it a
It's
is
a
it
boulder.
a bobcat?
It's a boulder. No, you don't even have to ask.
And
It's just-
I'm blown away that Player Handbook doesn't incorporate half dwarfs.
well, I mean,
What a
that's the
huge
question.
oversight. Why the fuck
what
would
is-
you not put that?
I feel
Well,
like it's one of
Because
those.
if you put that one, then you have to do a bunch of other ones. But then you also have half elves and half
But the
orcs.
half elves and half orcs are there.
I know, and that's the
Half-
thing. It's like they make
Yeah.
the humans have the almost capability to breed with everything, in a
Yeah.
sense. And so, like, one of the things I was just like, what happens if a human breeds with a gnome? Christmas elf?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. But yeah, so I mean, I feel like I love that idea of being able to mix the races. But if I had to pick one from the ones that they obviously have already
Mm-hmm.
okayed, it's hard. I mean, I like the idea of some of them, but I don't like some of their executions. Like, I like the idea of a Dragonborn. I think they just don't do it as well as they could,
Yeah.
to a degree. I like the idea of a kobold, and I'm like, I wish people had the ability to do it more, but they're just so coined as an evil race, like goblins and drow, so they're likely not to be seen. I think if I had to just pick a single race, it might just come down to, I suppose, I'd say the gnome.
Gnomes are fun.
Gnome is one of my favorites. They have a lot of little diversities in them. They have a good streak of mischievous that they can really have fun with.
And they love rhyming. That's great RP stuff, man.
Yeah, but they have a lot of perks to them. They're small, so they can be a little bit more adaptive to certain situations. Because believe it or not, it's a lot easier for a small thing to fit into something large than a large thing to fit into something small.
I do believe that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where you find that a lot more doors will open up to you if you actually embrace a lot of the deviations from the average norm. So being smaller, being maybe a little longer lived, having a little bit more of an affiliation to magic, you might prove yourself to have a bit more enjoyability with it. So I kind of like that.
I love the idea of selective breeding gnomes to make like a teacup Yorkie version of a gnome. Like it's a dude that's just like a foot tall, just this teeny tiny little thing that you can put in your pocket. Like that would be glorious, man.
Kurtz takes it out of his pocket and throw it at them.
I just fucking like have a bunch of gnomes in a bag. I'm just throwing them. Fuck you, and they're like casting firebolt and shit as they're flying through the air.
Like little Smurfs running around.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted me to get rid of my weapons? I'm always armed. They just like emerge from my armor.
I have always thought that making a rock Shasa
Rakshasa.
The inverse thumbed.
Right, but they are insane because magic of 6th level or lower, they can just choose to not have it affect them. They have tons of innate magic abilities like transform, altering themselves.
Charismatic as fuck.
Plus, if they die, they come back. They're just insanely overpowered, man.
They don't give a shit.
Well, that's
most other planar beings, though.
Right,
when
but
it comes
I'm saying,
to the
like, making a playable race off of that, like, themed off of that, I think would be fucking cool. I don't even care about their hands. Like, it's the other stuff about them that just make them so cool. Like, no, I just choose to not have that level 5 spell affect me.
The DM would never allow that. A DM would never allow that.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, gnomes have something that's like a much lower level, but they have the magical resilience where they get advantage on all magical saving throws of charisma, wisdom, and intelligence.
But there's not a lot of them that uses those type of bases. Wisdom, yes.
Wisdom,
charisma for certain type of spells that banish you, but in most of the time, it's gonna be Dex.
No, charm is wisdom, which I don't like.
There are charms that require charisma.
But there's very rare amount of them.
Many.
Like the enchantment spells that, if I'm correct, do it is
Gaius, maybe?
Banishment.
Banishment does it. Yeah, and
Banishment, planar transport, or whatever the hell it's called. That one's charisma based.
Yeah.
There's very rare that use charisma. Intelligence is sometime used. Wisdom, you're gonna get use out of, like.
Yeah, you're gonna mileage out of that baby.
But it's all in Dex and Con for saving throws for magic, sadly.
Con.
Here's a question.
Not as much for con.
It's a healthy mix.
I mean, necrotic, yeah. You have
If
your
you want the
cons.
one that is the least used,
It's intelligence.
Yeah, there's only one or two. There's two,
Strength is the least.
There's more than 2.
maybe 3, but there's nothing.
I think there's like 4 or 5. But yeah.
Isn't there a spell that give you an intelligence score of
Feeble mind.
1?
That's Feeble Mind.
Yeah.
And it's an intelligence saving throw.
That's one of the intelligence ones. And then Phantasmal Force is intelligence, and I think Maze ends up being an intelligence one.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Maze existed.
Maze is
I blocked that out.
mean.
I blocked that out of my mind and all my games and everything.
But anywho,
Maze should not be used.
Aren't you glad?
I wouldn't allow it.
oh, it ends an encounter.
It does, and it ends a lot more things. Maze is bad.
I think user 5354 is going to win the giveaway.
Well, let's
Guess.
just do this. I'll just give him 1,000 HotA points. How about that?
Hey, tell your friends. Buy Chris potions.
No.
Let's see here.
The
Maybe.
worst thing about the maze is that there is no saving throw.
Oh, there isn't. It just
It
happens.
just happens.
And then
That's
you do
the
an
part that-
intelligence check.
He's got
Not a saving throw.
7,830. Now he's got 8,800.
It's broken. It shouldn't exist.
Oh, it is broken.
Congratulations.
I'm so lucky.
But anyway, since it's just us, what the heck? Have you, Sean? Have you heard my MP3 of my character intro yet?
No, where'd you? Oh, you
I sent it
emailed
to the HotA email.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I rarely check that. I'll pull it up right
Oh,
now.
shit. Let me pull it up. I'm in charge now. No.
Is any of the devs in the chat currently? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Wait,
No,
Kayla's
no.
not here, so we can't talk about P&I.
I had an idea for a different accent because I don't change my voice very much on this recording, but I have a voice that I could use. But the thing is, I can't talk fast in it, at least not yet, and so there's no way I'd be able to get out as much of the.
I'm
words
gonna-
as I-
But our orcs
I'm gonna
fast,
stop
though.
recording. We'll can keep streaming if you guys want. It doesn't hurt, but there's no reason to have this be in
Yeah.
Might as
stuff
well
to
stop
for
the stream
episodes.
as
So
Yeah, it's already past the time.
Yeah, it's just chatting at this point.
So anybody
Thanks,
who's watching the
user 5354.
episodes, it was great to have you guys watch. We'll see you next time. But we'll keep streaming just because we can.
Yeah.
Again,
We're
See you
still
guys next
streaming.
time.
We're not goodbying. We're just goodbying.
We-
to recording.
Like,